Hey everybody, welcome to Wish We Were Then. This is the show that has been doomed to repeat history so that you may learn from it. That way you don't have to repeat history. Ain't that nice?
We will.
We
will.
We're gonna repeat it, but you're not. That's the plan. This cancels it out. As long as everybody listens to this show, then we're safe as a nation.
Yeah, you got
and
to
as
tell
a world.
everybody you know.
Yep. Get the word out there, guys.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to go through any of the crazy stuff that happened in the year we're going to dig into today.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of
a gnarly year.
Yeah, a lot of deaths going on this year.
Yeah, for real. Well, let's tell everybody about how when we showed up in the past, Timeless Tony arranged for us to meet up with some big general. And we were like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to meet this general guy. We didn't know who he was or really anything other than that. We just knew he was going to prepare us for the year ahead. So we showed up, and this is what he had to say. All right, get you two ready. You're about to enter into one of the most dangerous, violent years that I have ever seen in my many, many weeks as a podcast general in the podcasting army. What is a podcast?
Who is this guy?
Prepare yourselves, because this is going to be a tough one for you. We got lots and lots of deaths, natural disasters. We have 2 different hurricanes, one of the worst snowstorms in American history, and an ice storm, all deadly, I might add. We got ourselves plane crashes, train crashes, automobile crashes. We got an Olympic Park bombing. We have a goddamn invasion of the horned Asian beetles in New York City, for crying out loud. We're being invaded. Osama bin Laden's declaring war on us. Rappers are getting shot, and rappers are shooting cops. It's dangerous. And we got a dangerous strain of E. coli. Made its way into some god-darned apple juice. Killed a baby. Content warning. And we even have the darkest of all Disney movies to ever come out. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's not suitable for your children, just like that apple juice wasn't. It's so bad out there, the American people are flocking to the theaters and in front of their television sets to see outer space aliens coming in and destroying the whole gosh darn place, leveling the entire world, as if to say, let's start over. This time you guys might have a chance. So prepare yourselves. Keep your helmet on your head and your head on a swivel while you're out there in the year 1996.
Thank you, sir. A lot going on this year. I mean, like you said, hurricanes and natural disasters and bombings and shootings and...
That's gnarly. When I was looking through the news, I was like, holy shit, this is a different hurricane than the other one? Yeah, it was like, oh, this is just a few mere weeks after that last one. I was like, holy crap.
And then also 2 huge cases as far as like murders and things like that. On April 3rd, Ted Kaczynski, or AKA the Unabomber, was arrested.
Yeah, that's a big old story to go down, huh?
Dude, yeah. So if you guys don't know, for those of you who don't know, the Unabomber was known for sending bombs to people he thought that was destroying the environment. So he'd send like these homemade bombs and packages to people, and he had done it for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And he was finally arrested, and he got 8 life sentences without parole. 8 consecutive life sentences. I don't know why that would matter, but that's what it says.
If he lives out his first life. Well, this guy might be a part cat. Who knows?
Let's give him 9, actually.
Well, if he makes it through all 8 of them, we'll go for it. Let him out at that point. He's served his time.
It's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, it was between the years of 1978 and 95 that he delivered a series of 16 increasingly sophisticated bombs. I like that he got better at it as he went along. Obviously, he would. This is like all he does.
It's like you do something for 20 years. I guess you're definitely going to improve, whether it's a good or bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. He moved out to Montana in a cabin and became like self-sufficient in 1971 and like learned to live off the land. And then he saw the environment around him getting destroyed, and he like came to the conclusion like we can't have society and live peacefully with nature. So he had to But he was a really smart guy by all accounts.
Well, I mean, the crazy ones usually are.
Yeah, he was really, really. I mean, I admire him. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like singing his praises. But no, he he had like a series of diaries that he, journals and stuff that he'd been keeping for years and years, and like tens of thousands of pages of this stuff that was all in his cabin when they raided it, and it contained a bunch of encrypted messages, like with codes that he had come up with. And he had 2 different codes, and one of them was like I was reading about how it worked, and I just was like, I have no idea how that. It's not just like symbols. It was like a numerical thing as well that you had to like reference a bunch of keys that he had in different spots, and eventually they just found it all. So within his compound or his cabin or whatever, and they were able to piece it together and get his manifesto. Well, that was another thing. He had sent out his manifesto the year before and said he would cease his violence if they published it in the newspapers. The Washington Post ended up putting it out. I think it was Penthouse that said, "We'll do it." Like they volunteered first.
I mean, whoever prints that is going to get huge sales,
Exactly, yeah. And I think, well, there was, they were the cops and everybody was not sure if they should be doing this. I mean, they were like, we don't know if we should be promoting him and doing.
Yeah, because then you encourage other people to oh, well, that means I can become famous, and that's my name can get out there. That's part of the reason why people do these things. He says it was for the environment, but maybe he also wanted attention, and that can encourage other people to do the same.
Actually, it was the publishing of that manifesto that got him caught, because his brother recognized the crazy ass writing that he uses.
I did hear
and
about
was
that.
like, okay, actually it was like, I think he realized he recognized it. I think he already had been suspecting it could be his brother because of like the description that they had put out, that he had like probably come from Chicago area, had more than likely been at a university at some point, and then also had connections to the San Francisco area, had probably lived there at some point in his life. And he was kind of like, I think that might be old Teddy boy. And then his wife, when they printed some of the manifesto, was like, all right, you need to look at the manifesto at least and see if you really do think this is him. So then she kind of encouraged him and pushed him to do it. Yeah, it was. And then he hired a attorney to contact the FBI to kind of like try to keep himself out of it, but it ended up getting out that he was the one who did it. It was the longest and most expensive investigation in FBI history to bring this guy down.
Damn.
Yeah, I only got him on April 3rd.
Things are so different nowadays. Like, you wouldn't be able to do that. Like just cameras that are everywhere, people having cameras, or like, it
was hard. It was hard to pin anything on him because he made bombs out of just like scraps of shit that he had like lying around. He didn't.
Yeah, he didn't like go buy things. And...
Yeah, he was a real smart guy. That Unabomber.
Resourceful.
It's like a portmanteau kind of, or whatever. Its code name for him was from University and Airline Bomber. Unabomber, yeah. University and Airline Bomber. So Unabomber. That's what they call that.
I never knew that.
Yeah, the FBI had like that code name for him, and then made its way out to the press, and then it just became what everybody knew him as. Well, speaking of deadly happenings, to kick off the year on January 2nd, rappers Cool C and Steady B, along with a guy named Mark Canty, that was like their friend, they attempted to rob a PNC bank in Philadelphia. So they went in there with like guns and stuff to actually rob this bank. And Chris Roney, that was Cool C's real name, he actually had some like moderate success as a rapper before this. He wasn't like world famous, but his first 2 solo albums did hit the Billboard 200s and stayed on for a couple weeks. So he was like a known rapper. There were 3 employees there. It was before the bank actually opened up, and the silent alarm ended up getting tripped. And then Officer Laretha Baird was nearby. She responded first. And Chris Roney shot her in the abdomen. She had a bulletproof vest on, but the plates weren't in it for some reason. So then when he ran away, he exchanged fire with another officer who had just pulled up. And they all fled and made it away for a bit. Like he was, on the lam for a couple days. They figured out who it was by tracing all the guns and stuff like that. And he ended up turning himself in within a couple days. Because they first went after Canty, I believe. one of the other guys, they kind of found out about him first and was like, he's not the one who actually pulled the trigger. So the other 2 guys got life without parole, but Chris Roney got the death penalty for actually being the one who shot her. And he's still on death row. Yeah, he's had a couple stay of executions.
Why even put people on death row?
Yeah, right.
To like satisfy other people's, like, I don't know, anger for what have happened. You know what I mean?
Sense of vengeance.
Yeah. And then just keep them alive for 45 years after that? Like, what's the point?
Yeah, I feel like it's weird either way.
Okay, so on April 20th, 420, the Menendez brothers were convicted of murder 7 years after they had killed their parents with a shotgun in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I saw that they were convicted.
They're 2 individual sentencing that neither their juries can come to conclusions on. So they ended up trying them together, which didn't make sense to me because isn't that double jeopardy? Getting tried.
I don't watch Jeopardy. I don't know what that.
Get Trebek on here. Let's see. He knows. What is double jeopardy? No, because isn't getting charged for the same thing twice? If you guys couldn't come to a conclusion on the first time it happened,
yeah,
why do you guys get another try at it together? Like, why is that a separate case? They're not separate cases. It's the same case. So I don't understand the legalities of that.
Yeah, I don't know. That is weird. You're right. I don't know. I can't really think. I mean, there's got to be some kind of just legal loopholes about it that it was like, well,
call your sister. Pause the podcast.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That is a good question. We'll have to get into that. I didn't really look into this because I was like, well, it's the trial, and I don't know. I kind of just based it on like I might talk about their murders when those occur.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can just say it happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I didn't know whether or not to look too far into it. Yeah, so
it happened.
Then. It happened. People get over it. On April 11th, so still, man, April was a scary month to be in. Jessica Dubroff, I believe is how you pronounce her last name, a 7-year-old, died attempting to become the youngest person to fly across the United States.
7?
Yeah, right? Is that so great?
What?
She wasn't alone. Her dad was with her, and she had her like instructor there. And this was the second day of their trip. They like made it through the first day. And it's just wild that this occurred, that this was like allowed to happen. Like she wasn't stopped by authorities from doing this.
Well, I don't know, like, because you have to have a legal age to fly a plane. Why would there be a legal age to drive a car but not a plane?
Yeah, no, it's 17. Also, you have to have your medical license as well to be a pilot, and that you have to be at least 16. But she also couldn't have a pilot's license until 17 at the very least. So her instructor was named Joe Reed. I'm going to call him out because I know he perished, but still I think this was bad judgment on his part to be taking part in this. They were leaving the Cheyenne, Wyoming airport, and there was really, really bad visibility, like a storm was coming in. And her dad, like, in the morning, people were telling him, too, like, the news the night before, somebody told him, like, yeah, the news says it's going to be a bad storm tomorrow. And they're like, well, we're still going to head out. We just want to beat the storm. We want to keep time, really, is what it was. The world was watching at this point, like, news, and everybody was, like, following them to and from their destinations and things like that. And, like, it was very publicized. And I just still think this is so crazy that no one was like, we shouldn't be doing this, especially because she's not old enough. It was so muddy, too, on like whether she was actually flying the plane. I mean, I believe that she was. That's my thought here, is that she was flying it every time. But it's like, her instructor was actually in charge of the controls, because there's 2 sets of controls at the front of the plane. So it was like, he's the one who's actually flying the plane. And it's like, well, then what is she doing? But I think she was flying the planes,
I don't see why, like, letting somebody fly in the air is fine. You know what I mean? Like, keep it straight. Like I'm standing here holding the other controls. But would you ever really let her take off and land?
But 7 is so young to be like, they could just be like, whoops, they could just fall. They're clumsy kids, you know what I mean? Like, maybe she's super smart, whatever, who knows? But kids are not that finely motor developed to be able to, like, what if she just accidentally sneezes or something, you know what I mean?
Okay,
she jerks the controls. So I don't really trust her flying I'm not getting in a seat behind a 7-year-old. I'm sorry.
That's crazy.
What a girl qualified she is. The The flight instructor actually even asked for, like, what was it called? Visual flight rules. VFR is what it is. That's like he could be able to leave on site only. I don't think they had the instruments to be on whatever the other kind of clearance is, where you have to only be flying with instruments. Because they were in a small little Cessna. And so he asked for this VFR clearance. They gave it to him. Then they were rolling up, and they were like, they told him, it's not, we can't give anybody VFR clearance anymore. Like, it needs to be that higher level. But they can give out special VFR clearance. So he asked for that, and they gave him that. So also the tower was kind of to blame here. The plane also was overloaded by like 91 pounds. It's like probably the weight of a little girl, huh? They should have left her behind. Reed is said to have been behind the controls. They have said that, but it's like, how do you know? Who knows? They cleared off and they tried to head towards the open skies that weren't covered in clouds and shit, and then on the way they crashed.
Damn. I mean, it has to be a fault of his, at least a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're a driver instructor.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like how much.
And you're letting a 7-year-old drive the car. Yeah, you're at fault.
Yeah, for sure.
He said to his wife, he said something to his wife about like, oh, I think, really this is like a non-event in the world of aviation. It's basically I'm flying across the country with a little girl sitting in the passenger seat. That's what he told his wife reportedly beforehand.
Okay, that makes more sense. And they're like, yeah, you want to get publicity, maybe we can make a book out of this. Just tell them that it's her.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Put a little headset on her and she's good.
I guess. I mean,
know.
the family seems pretty crazy. So it's like, I don't know. Do you think the father though, he's taking her for like, I think she had logged like a whole shit ton of hours behind in flight lessons again. So I don't know. That's all they ever describe is that she did take a lot of flight lessons beforehand. Does that mean she was flying? She's not allowed to still, but like.
Yeah, why was she taking flight lessons? Who was her instructors that were allowing her to do this?
Here's a question, and I wonder if it's been changed because of this, possibly. But, you can't get your license until you're 17. But who's to say you can't take classes beforehand and just log all your instructor hours before you turn 17? What if there's not a regulation? What if there wasn't just written down, you can't do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, she's on her way. She's working towards getting her license, so I'm giving her instructions,
Yeah, I don't know.
That could be the legal, a lot of loopholes to look up. I got to call my sister. Hold on. Write down. All right, I'm going to have a whole list for her. And get a 7-year-old fly a plane. All right. We could also ask her about what she thinks about this next news story that happened on September 7th. What you got about this?
Tupac Shakur was shot in the chest in a drive-by attack on the Vegas Strip. After leaving a boxing match with Mike Tyson and Bruce Seldon, 4 men in a white Cadillac pulled up alongside, and a gunman opened fire. Tupac was sitting in the back seat, and Marion Suge Knight was sitting in the driver's seat. Suge was hit by shrapnel, but no serious injuries. Tupac passed away 6 days after he was shot at age 25. No one has been identified for the killings. Sad day in rap history right there.
Hit the wrong guy, dude. They should have killed Suge Knight. That guy's a piece of work. I mean, there was more to the story than I always just heard it was like a drive-by, and that was it. Kind of just like somebody blasted him. When they were leaving the match, they saw Orlando Anderson, who was a Southside Compton Crip. And they, like, apparently, somebody told Pac that was like, hey, that guy tried to rob me and like whatever. So then they all jumped him. And there's like security camera footage. I didn't see it. I didn't look into the cam footage, actually. I kind of forgot about that. So that happened right before this happened in the night, a couple hours prior. So then they were just cruising around. They got stopped by the cops at 11 for not having plates on the car, but they had them in the trunk, so the cops let them go. And then 15 minutes after that, 11:15 is when this actually happened. So it had been a little bit of time, and they, had been around. So it was like, there's time enough for this guy to come up and shoot them all up. But
leave and come back.
Orlando got killed in a different gang fight later. So they didn't really ever have a chance to question him that much about it.
Damn. This was a time when rappers were still gangsters.
Exactly. That's what I was saying about
You
Cool
know,
C
'cause-
and whatever that guy's name was, something B.
Well, it's just that, like, I mean, this is when, I don't know, this is before rappers were like, it's cool to be a gangster, but I'm not one. You know what I mean? Like, these
Yeah.
were people who were actively in the lifestyle while being famous.
Yeah, I mean that's how they got famous. Like so many of these people,
Yeah. Well,
like
Tupac,
Biggie
I would,
Smalls and stuff.
yeah, Biggie, Big L.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a big thing. Is like, was Biggie involved in this? Who
Yeah.
knows? Because there was some stuff that
That's
happened
what.
in
But then they say that
95.
Suge was involved in it too. There's a lot of like conspiracies around it.
Yeah. Oh, one interesting fact that also I had never heard before that I will say about this: the members of the Outlaws, which was his group that he was in and had founded, just they'd put out like an album, I think, maybe one or two. But in one of the songs, Black Jesus, he says, smoke my ashes when I die. So they were like, we don't know if he was like being serious or not. So they put some of his ashes in like a blunt. They all smoked it.
Damn.
I was like, that's gnarly. I don't know if he was serious, guys. It's just the lyric in the song.
They're like, we're just gonna do it just to be safe.
Just in case. I don't want to be haunted by Tupac. Is that somebody you want haunting you? No, let's go ahead. He lived that life. No, we're gonna smoke him up now. Put his spirit to rest.
Well, rest in peace, Tupac.
To finish off the year, we have on December 25th, Christmas Day. This is another sad story involving a child, so buckle up, folks. John Benet Ramsey. She is killed on Christmas Day, probably. It could be December 26th, depending on what you think happened. But anyway, her mom, Patsy, finds a 2.5-page handwritten ransom note demanding $118,000 for the return of John Benet Ramsey because she is apparently missing. I don't know if she looked in the bedroom first or if she saw the note first. That's not something I looked into. I did read a lot about this case, though. The amount that they asked for was nearly identical to the father, John Ramsey's, previous year's Christmas bonus. And this obviously was Christmas Day. Why do they know exactly how much that was? Who knows?
I was going to say
questions.
it's a very specific amount of money.
Yes. I mean, there's countless details that people raise questions about. So, when you have something you want to question about, just let me know because I'll pause this.
Yeah.
The note and also a practice draft, apparently, were written with a pen and notepad from the Ramseys' home. So it was basically they were saying this was an intruder that came in, sat down and wrote this note out. I guess practiced it first too, and then wrote it again, 2.5 pages, to take her. Then took her. There was part of the note that said don't call the police, but she called the police, which I don't fault her for that. If it is a note that says don't call the police, I'm still probably going to do it if my daughter's missing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take it into my own hands. But she also called a bunch of family and friends. Also not that suspicious, I guess. But then a bunch of the friends and family were like cleaning the kitchen and stuff while they were there. So they ended up kind of like contaminating the scene, ruining possible evidence of who knows whose fingerprints and things like that. Because the cops were there looking for a kidnapper, they focused their attentions in that direction. So they didn't see any signs of forced entry. They were trying to find a path that the kidnapper could have escaped through. And one of the officers came to a door that was locked from the inside. I mean, from the place that he was. You know what I mean? He was looking at like a locked door that had been locked from his side of it. So he didn't go through it. I think it was either in the basement or it led to the basement. I couldn't be clear about that. I think it was a little room in the basement, though. But he was like, the kidnapper couldn't have gone through that door and then locked it with this little wooden latch at the top of it. So I'm not going to check it behind it. That was the door that the next morning John Benet Ramsey would be found behind. He didn't look because, that's not what he was looking for. I mean, again, I don't know if I fault him, but I probably would have given it a gander,
Yeah, I feel like you should be covering your bases at that point. But
Yeah, I mean, but I just don't think they were
they didn't
expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the father found her in the morning, and he brought her upstairs, further contaminating any sort of evidence that might have been at the scene. I don't know, again, it's hard to blame him for wanting to move his daughter from the position he found her, The autopsy said she died by strangulation and a skull fracture. It also revealed that she had eaten pineapple a few hours before her death, which is noteworthy because it changes their story a little bit. There were pictures of the home on the day she was found that showed a bowl of pineapple with a spoon on the counter. So it's like, obviously she had been eating this at some point in the nighttime. And their story initially was they had come home from like a Christmas party at their friend's house, and she was asleep, so they put her right to bed, and then that was the last time they checked on her. But then it was like, well, she's got pineapple in her stomach, and it's there. They weren't serving pineapple at this party. People have looked into all of this stuff, you know. And also then it's like, okay, if somebody was sitting up writing a note, it's like, okay, here, honey, eat some pineapple while mommy writes something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or anybody, who knows? But nobody's ever been caught. There's a bunch of like defamation suits and stuff like that the Ramseys have levied against people for insinuating that it might be them.
I think it's them. From what you just told me, it sounds like it's them.
That is, yeah, it's hard to say how biased am I. I don't know. I was just reading this shit and writing it down. You know what I mean? This wasn't like I didn't look up like the conspiracy theory website and go, give me all the information about what this is. I just kind of was like, I find this noteworthy to write. That's kind of most of the information we have about it. I did put some editorializations in there a little bit, but you know, I just think there's some things that raise questions. I do think it's right to question this, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think the weirdest part of it is that there was a practice note. Because if you were going to kidnap somebody, you would write the note and bring it with you. Why the fuck would you sit at the girl's desk in her room or wherever the hell it was?
It was the kitchen, yeah. The kitchen where the pineapple bowl was. And
where were the parents during the writing of the 45-minute note?
Yeah.
Because if you did it twice and it's 2 pages, I doubt you got I doubt you got 3 sentences in and was like, this is not cutting it.
Yeah, I know. Also, one of the neighbors said they saw lights on in the kitchen around midnight, and I think
it was the parents. We might get a defamation lawsuit, Trey. I'm just saying. It was them.
I also do. I think the parents probably had something to do with this. There's one theory out there. This one's very interesting, and I don't know how much I didn't really look into this one. That the brother was like 9, and that there's a chance that he hit her with something heavy because he was like upset with her. He didn't realize he wasn't trying to murder her, but like he accidentally killed her, and then to cover it up, the parents just made this whole elaborate scheme, then realized she wasn't actually dead, and we're like, well, we've gone too far, so they had to like strangle her at that point.
Interesting.
Yes,
that's crazy.
Very, very sad way to close out the year. Fuck,
right?
That's all the news, you guys. We're done with sad stories from the year 1996. But I told you it was dangerous out there. I'm glad we had our helmets on our head and our head on a swivel, like that guy said. I thought he was full of shit.
Damn, he wasn't joking. Can we go back and talk to that guy? I just wasn't listening.
You are welcome.
All right, well, actually, let's move off of the news. Let's move on to food.
Okay.
But before we move off the bummer stuff, there is one bummer food thing that happened.
Okay.
On March 27th, there was a ban on British beef. Because it had mad cow disease reported in it.
Oh no, the mad cow scare.
Yeah, so this is where it started. They killed all unproductive cows over the age of 30 months. In total, around that year, it was around 80,000 heads of cattle were put down. And at least 10 human cases had been reported at that point. But this scare would actually last 10 years. It wouldn't stop. So after everything was said and done, 10 years later, 177 people died and 4 million cows would be put down.
Sheesh. Yeah, damn. That's a lot of cows. No wonder they're mad.
It started because they were supplementing their grains with bone meal and meat meal.
What the fuck?
Had
no wonder.
Cow in it, basically.
Oh, Jesus.
Which caused it.
Oh, my God. That's like a horror movie, man. That's so insane. Like, grind up all your old cow bones and feed them to your cows.
Right. Here's your mom.
That's so wild. And then, it made them zombies. Like, that, of course. Damn, that's crazy. I was just thinking, it makes sense, too, that it started in Britain. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's called mad cow disease, because they're like, oh, your cow's going mad. You know? But like, if it was here, it'd be like, we got crazy cow disease. These cows are crazy. My dad died.
Cal's
from
gone
crazy
bone
cow.
loco.
Here's another food. Here's a food story. This one's faster than that one. That's a bunch of cows slowly turning the whole country crazy. This is a fast food story. The Arch Deluxe is released in 1996 at McDonald's. This was a humongous ad campaign that they put out. It was the biggest fast food marketing budget in history up to that point. So yeah, they spent about $300 million on telling people, go buy this hamburger. They were really excited about telling everybody because the burger, the tagline was, it's the burger with the grown-up taste. It was marketed directly at being like, this isn't for kids. Like specifically, like they were saying, this burger is not for children. Like, don't you
There's
try
alcohol
to buy
in
it,
it, don't.
Yeah, it was really like a lot of the advertisements were like, there were a whole bunch of them that were these. They came with like a little coupon on there to get some amount off of the burger or something. But they were like black and white advertisements of kids like being like with their tongues out, and then on the tip of their tongue was like a little coupon that had a picture of the burger. Like the kids were like, "This burger's gross," and I'm like, I want to eat that.
Onions. What goes on it?
This burger came with a quarter-pound patty, leaf lettuce. So that's a little different, I guess.
Yeah.
Tomato, onion, American cheese, ketchup, Dijonnaise sauce, which is Dijon and mayonnaise
Dijon
mixed
mustard.
together.
Oh, okay.
All on a split-top potato bun. So a little different bun. There also was like an option to get bacon on it, and the bacon was circular. I thought that was weird. It was circular peppered bacon.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it was folded that way.
No, it was just I couldn't really find a good picture of it. I found
like
other
a
people who've
sausage
made
patty,
it.
but
Yeah,
bacon.
yeah.
I don't like
I know. I know, it was like really weird. I couldn't. This is one of the most expensive flops of a product ever because it didn't do well, and they discontinued it in 2000.
I think the Dijon mustard is probably what.
I like Dijon. I think it's weird to put ketchup on this burger, this specific one. I don't think burgers don't need ketchup, but this one sounds like you were going for a specific thing. Ketchup doesn't live in that space to me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like a Thousand Island sauce was kind of what they were going for with Dijon mustard.
Yeah. I mean, they were just
But-
going for, what do kids not like? You know, that was specifically.
I think they could have just left the leaf and the mustard on there, and I think that would have been enough
Yeah.
to like deter kids, but I don't
Also-
like Dijon mustard enough to eat this burger either, and I'm an adult, so I don't know.
I never tasted one. I was a kid at the time, so I wasn't allowed. But I would eat it now. It sounds all right. Like I said, the ketchup, I don't know. I would try it, but I probably would do without that on there. But I think when you're like a hamburger place that's known for serving children, and you specifically cut out the majority of your audience from even being like, a thing here, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot,
Yeah.
I mean, they were trying to become a more adult place. They were like, they did salads after this, I guess. And they kind of used some of the market research and everything else that they got after this to do their salads, which actually did do well.
I remember when they had salads. I do remember that. Speaking of things that were marketed to kids, on January 1st or 2nd, I couldn't find the exact day that this came out, but a bear company that owns the Flintstones chewable vitamins introduced the Betty character in their lineup. This was after Rosie O'Donnell had campaigned for it because they weren't in there after she had played Betty in the 1994 movie.
That's so funny.
This was her campaigning for it, and she got it. And now
She was very
Betty
popular
in there.
Yeah. I don't understand.
the
Why am I
time.
not a Flintstone vitamin? That's funny though. Yeah, she was really popular this year specifically. So that's really makes sense, I guess. But I love Flintstones vitamins. I wish I could just eat those as a kid, just like as candy.
Yeah, and then they came out with the gummy ones, and they basically were candy.
Oh, I never had the gummy ones. I like the chalkiness of the originals.
My aunt had the gummy ones. I remember going to her house and being like, yes, candy in the morning.
I have to try some. I gotta give me some of those. I've actually a couple times kept thinking about this and meaning to ask you, do you remember things from this year occurring? Like how early, it's always a weird thing. Like how early can you really remember? I feel like I remember stuff from preschool age, right? Like this is when I would have lived in a specific house that I remember living in. So I do remember some of this stuff occurring. What about you?
I guess none of the things that we've talked about yet, but there are things that I don't remember any of these things happening. But I remember very early on having memories of a lot of the things that would be like relevant in the coming years, like Flintstones vitamins. I remember those when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
You ate the Arch Deluxe, didn't you, you little freak?
I was gonna say nothing yet, but I think we're gonna talk about some things that I do have a memory of.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I keep wondering, do I just remember these things being around and existing, or is it that I actually remember them coming out or happening? You know, Tupac and all that kind of stuff. You know, I probably wasn't aware of Tupac, but you know what I mean?
No.
But I do have very early memories of watching TV and them being like, this is what happened to Tupac, you know?
Yeah. Well, yes.
One last other thing that came out in the food world I will point out is Orbits. They were like little sparkling waters or sodas, I guess, you know, soda water type deals with little floating beads of jelly flavor in them.
Like boba? I don't remember those.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing them around and stuff. They're like, ooh, sounds fucking gross. It seems like a Swedish thing or something like that.
Yeah. They
had little orbiting beads of jelly. Ugh. It's like Goldschlager for kids.
Well, there's a pretty hard line between what we're marketing to this year, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think Orbits. I think Orbits was supposed to be. I kind of think it was like a high schooler drink, so I guess it was for kids. You know, that had to have been who was drinking Orbits.
Yeah.
All right, you want to get on technology?
Let's do it.
I'll say up top here a couple of cool inventions that came out. The interactive pager. That was the name of like the brand was Inter, and then the @ symbol. Interactive pager allowed users to send and receive messages via the Mobitex wireless network. So it's actually the device credited with introducing features such as peer-to-peer delivery, so actually like sending your message to each other on your little devices. I mean, SMS messages had been out, but it was from a computer to a phone before, and pagers also were not this, you know, not able to really send messages back and forth. You could just receive things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It also introduced read receipts, sending faxes to phones, and text-to-speech technology. All was like introduced on this device.
Dang.
Yeah, pretty neat. Pagers were dope back then. Yeah, I think that's a weird forgotten like area of technology. You know, obviously,
because between now, like 1996, and like the way that cell phones would develop so quickly after this.
Yeah.
Because they were making cell phones right now, too.
Yes.
And they weren't like the big-ass gray ones that you see. They were relatively smaller, and they were becoming more... They had antennas and stuff, and they were becoming more popular. So this was probably the kind of last-ditch effort for pagers.
Yeah, but I think that smartphones in general really are a combination of a phone and a pager, along with other devices. You know, and I think
a lot of devices, calculators, cameras, and there's a lot of devices that are like all smooshed together.
I guess it's the fact that we don't have like there was no need for pagers anymore, and other stuff that the phone does. You might have a calculator lying around. You might have a fucking typewriter if you like having typewriters, and there's a lot of things that you can still have an option for, but there's just no pagers anymore. You know, it's one thing that's just gone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Makes sense. It's the only one that was completely made obsolete. But phones, too, are pretty obsolete. But this is still a phone, and that's how we refer to it. Even though now it's like the fucking millionth option on there that I use it for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the internet and a calculator and so games and Instagram and all these things that you can do on it that are like not the phone. Like I hardly ever take phone calls.
Yeah.
Even the text messaging really is more of a pager thing.
Yeah. Remember when Motorola had the walkie-talkie version?
Yeah. That was weird. I had a friend who had that in high school, and I just thought it was crazy. What? How is that help? I mean, you guys like talking to each other for that much. Oh, yeah? I kind of remember having that, I feel like. I'm going to start calling my cell phone my pager from now on. My cellular pager.
Just page me.
Yeah, give me a page. In the realm of phones, I'll say the Nokia 8110 was the first slider phone. Like a little slidey thing on it. That was cool back then. Very cool. Like whip that out and start talking to somebody. And then the Nokia 9000 is one of the first smartphones. So we talked about the iPhone really revolutionizing smartphones recently, but the actual first smartphone, there were like a couple that were around before this, but it had the ability to send and receive email. Also print documents via some infrared data port that you could print stuff from it. And it also had a web browser.
Damn.
Yeah,
All
so
that
there
stuff was more recent than I had expected.
Yeah, right. It was a pretty advanced phone, a smartphone.
I mean, I feel like my dad had a pager up until I was like 10.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
feel
mean?
like I remember people having pagers still.
All right, I got a cool technology thing on here. On December 6th, General Motors releases their EV1. It's the first electric car manufactured by a major car company. It was a two-seater sedan style. It was a lease only for $31,000. And then in 1997, they stopped the production of them and then destroyed all of the inventory.
Jeez.
And then in 2002, they canceled all of the leases that were out and then reclaimed all the cars and then destroyed all of those as well.
Holy shit.
There's only one left, and it's in the Smithsonian. And it
Wow.
is, to this day, the rarest car in existence. Pretty
Holy
much
shit.
the rarest car.
I didn't expect all that other stuff to come out of this.
Neither did I. I was like, why? Like, and it must have been big gas companies like trying to shut down the electric car companies. I don't know what else it would have been. Why else would you destroy every single one out there?
That's got to be what it is, unless they just were like, oh no, it's turning citizens into mutants, you know? Something crazy was happening. They're like, we got to hush this up. I mean, that's fucking crazy, dude. I had no idea. I was thinking too, like, they were like, the Unabombers finally stopped. You know, we don't have to. We've been working on this car to appease this guy for the last couple of years. Now that he's been caught, we can just destroy all this shit. Fuck that guy. Damn, wild. All right, well, another product, another cool invention that was released in North America. That had come out prior in Japan, but on September 29th, the N64 showed up in the United States.
Yeah.
Big day for gamers everywhere. See, this is something I remember being like at the store and seeing a big display of them being like, "New, we have these."
It was marketed for years, though.
That's true too. I don't know. How young do people have memories?
I don't. I mean, I guess everybody's different, but I think somewhere between like 3 and 5. My dad says he remembers his name.
This is between there.
My dad remembers the name of his kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, I remember
5,
like everything from
and
kindergarten.
that was 60 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's the older you get, the harder it is. But like,
so
I vividly remember kindergarten. You know.
Yeah, so do I. I don't remember my teacher's name, but 4 is probably a good starting point. I think.
Yeah, I feel like I remember this coming out. I'm gonna say I do. It's September, so the end of the year. All right, some of the games that came out during the year of '96. So a lot of these were release titles for the N64. But you had Super Mario 64, one of the greatest fucking games of all time, hands down. Yeah. I love that game. I played that so much as a child. Did you have that one?
I did. Me and my cousins would like switch cartridges and stuff back and forth.
That's
games. Yeah.
God, I remember this game. There was so much fun stuff in this one. Like if you beat the whole thing, you get Yoshi at the end of it, or you just get to meet him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you ride him around? I can't remember if you actually get to ride him around. I think you just meet him, or you can like ride him around that one area, and if you go inside the castle, you don't have him anymore or something. Possibly. Who knows? Conflating memories here. That was a long time ago. I don't remember that smoothly. Also, though, Mario Kart 64 came out. Another all-timer. Amazing game. Another Tomb Raider. Resident Evil. Crash Bandicoot. And then Civilization 2. Tekken 2. Twisted Metal 2. Quake is a game people remember fondly. Star Wars Shadow of the Empire is a game that we had that I loved. That's a super cool Star Wars game where you're like a bounty hunter.
I had a Star Wars game, and I can't remember what it was called.
There was a couple of ship levels where you were driving around in the ships and stuff, but there were also levels where you were on foot shooting and things like that. My mom and I loved to play that game, and she would, anytime I got to a ship level, I would just give her the controller because I was like, I can't do them very well, and she was amazing at them. She loved it. She'd sit there and just like destroy them. And then also Metal Slug debuted. Wave Race 64 is another one I had that I loved. We were on like jet skis and stuff. And then Parappa the Rapper is pretty dope.
Never heard of that one.
Oh, it was like a very early version of kind of like a Dance Dance sort of a type of game where you had to hit the buttons in time, and it was a little like weird dog character with a beanie on that was rapping.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was dope. They've like remade it, but that just is now you can play Guitar Hero and you can have Dance at home and stuff. So it's kind of made irrelevant a little bit. But let's see. Let's talk about some toys that came out. First off, I'll just say quickly, the Tamagotchi was debuted in the U.S. in '96. Those were fucking sick.
Yeah, I remember that. Everybody had those things.
Mm-hmm. My older sister had one, and I remember her putting it. I have a vivid memory of her putting it up on a mantle and saying, "Don't touch this. I'll be right back." And she left, and I picked it up and I started fucking with it. I was like, "I'm allowed to touch this," and I was playing with it. And then I killed it, and I put it back. And she came back. She was like, "You killed my dog." I was like, "I'm so sorry."
I guess I shouldn't have touched that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I never really had one myself, so I don't know how much work went into that thing beforehand, and like what did I do to her? Or is this like a game that you can lose like that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, everybody had those. Like take care of it and. Remember just like it barking or whatever and like needing stuff.
Yeah, I never actually had one. I think they were like more kind of at the time they were seen as like a thing for girls a little bit more than boys.
My sisters
I think.
had one, yeah. So.
Yeah, so I was interested, but I never had one because I couldn't. God forbid.
Yeah, I got one toy thing here. The Tickle Me Elmo debuted, and it had come out early in the year, and it didn't get much success. But then when Black Friday hit, there was like a huge craze, and everybody rushed, like the Cabbage Patch Dolls, this kind of action.
That's so weird. I mean, it was released in July, just like as a normal thing that people were like, "Oh, those are nice. Sure, I'll buy one." I guess you know what I mean. They weren't like like toys aren't that popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like this is cute. I'll buy it for my kid or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a fucking Sesame Street doll. There were actually 2 women that were arrested for fighting over one in Chicago. It did become violent. More of that scary violence. Sorry guys, we thought we were out of it. And then someone allegedly paid $7,100 in Denver for one. I couldn't find much around that, but like there was a story of that occurring. Possibly might have happened. Who knows? A Walmart clerk was stampeded upon while unpacking the box. As soon as he opened it up, people saw what was inside. They rushed him in.
Shit.
He got a broken rib and a concussion among some other lesser injuries, but he did break a rib, for crying out loud.
Fuck. I mean, at least he's alive. It was people who have died during Black Friday.
Yeah, he was one of the first casualties of this ongoing
That's crazy, dude.
Pandemic, epidemic. An LA radio station held a charity auction for one, and Bob's Pharmacy won for $18.5 thousand. So the charity auction, but still was like the highest amount that was paid for it that year was $18.5 thousand. And a Muncie, Indiana man traded his 1987 Ford Escort to receive a Tickle Me Elmo doll.
What the hell?
Yeah, this thing was popular, to say the least. I know I've seen them around. I don't think I ever had one.
I did. I remember getting one. I don't feel like my parents went through life and limb to get one, so maybe it was the following year. But yeah. I remember having one.
It's like it inspired the movie Jingle All the Way. That and the Cabbage Patch Kids.
Oh, I remember that movie.
Okay, let's get on to sports news.
The World Series champions were the New York Yankees. The Super Bowl champions were the Dallas Cowboys. The NBA champions were the Chicago Bulls. And the Stanley Cup champions were the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, a couple of those pretty noteworthy wins in there. Cowboys, that was the 3rd title that they won in 4 years. So they were ripping it up, The Bulls, they won this on the back of a 72-10 regular season, which was the all-time record up until 2015 when the Warriors went 73 wins that year. But 72-10, god damn, so insane.
That is crazy. Holy shit.
Michael Jordan years, This was the first, I think, of a second three-peat that they would go on to do, where he took that break in the middle and then won 3 more really quickly.
Fucking crazy, dude.
Destroying the world. This year, I mean, he had something to play for, too. On February 29th, his father's killer was convicted. His name was Daniel Green. He shot MJ's dad. I didn't know about that. He was trying to steal his car.
We talked about it.
Oh, okay.
At one point. I don't remember
when it happened.
Yeah.
We didn't save that fact. That's the issue.
Oh, okay.
Goes out of the head. Also, during that NFL season, the Cleveland Browns deactivated. No longer a team anymore. They moved to Baltimore and became the Ravens.
But then they
reactivated in 1999.
Okay.
So Cleveland just fucking screaming into the clouds for 3 years. Bring back the Browns!
I guess, yeah. Shit, I mean, who bought him? I guess you don't know, but...
James Brown. That's why he named him that.
He's like, yes, I know what I'm going to do.
Also in that NBA season, I want to say real quick that this was an amazing draft year for the NBA. This was 11 future All-Stars came out of this draft class, including Kobe Bryant. So you got Michael Jordan playing at the peak of his powers this year. And you got Kobe Bryant coming in to shake it up and go, maybe you're not the greatest of all time. We're going to make people question this on Instagram in the comment section for years, screaming at each other.
Well, at least on the first game, he played 6 minutes and got 0 points. So I don't think anybody was too worried at this time.
Not yet. You also had Ray Allen entering the NBA, as well as Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, Stephon Marbury, and Ben Wallace actually went undrafted. And, many say he's the greatest such player in history. Everyone's kicking themselves over for passing him up,
Yeah.
But a fucking hard year to choose, I guess. That's a big thing, Also entering a pro league, Tiger Woods.
Oh, shit. Nice.
He made his PGA debut on August 29th.
He's young, too, right?
Yeah, he was pretty young at the time, I believe.
I think he's like 15.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, he was really young.
Damn.
I got it on April 6th. The MLS soccer would have their first game.
Oh,
First
I didn't
time
know that.
first time that the states would see the good old foosball, as the rest of the world calls it. It was the San Antonio Clash played the DC United, and over 31,000 people showed up to watch it live.
Wow,
that was pretty good attendance. Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. Man, a lot of sports stuff happening this year. It was a great year for sports. A lot of distraction from all that crazy stuff happening. Although one of the biggest sporting events in the history of the world is the Olympic Games. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. This was
Did the Olympics happen this year?
Yeah, the Centennial Olympics. This was the 100th Olympics since they were established in 1896, the modern Olympic Games. The ancient Olympic Games, the last recorded celebration was in 393 AD.
Holy shit, nice.
I didn't know they took such a long break.
Yeah, you would think that they wouldn't have taken that long. It's like 2,000 years.
Yeah, 393 to 1896, there weren't Olympics, really. I didn't know that. I was not aware of that fact. So 1896, they came back up. 100 years later, we have this Olympic Games, which would debut beach volleyball, mountain biking, and softball into the Olympics. Also appearing for the first time were 11 former Soviet republics showing up as the independent nations that they are now. Or, who knows how they are now, but they were at the time.
Yeah.
The United States walked away with 101 medals, taking home the most gold, the most silver, and the most overall number of medals.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
USA. I am a real American. But here's the black mark on the United States for this time. The Olympics were held in Atlanta. I don't think I said that earlier. So we were hosting.
Okay.
And on July 27th, a pipe bomb was detonated in Centennial Olympic Park, which is a park built for the event. The blast killed one person and injured 11 more. And then a cameraman who was rushing to the scene had a heart attack and died as well. So, as a result of this happening. Eric Rudolph confessed to the crime later, much later, years later. He had done a bunch of bombings. This was another guy who was out there bombing stuff like the Unabomber. It was a scary time for the world. But Richard Jewell actually was the first. He was a security guard there. There's a whole movie about him, starring Paul Walter Hauser. That he was the first guy. I've never seen it, but he was the first guy who noticed the bomb and reported it and everything. So he ended up saving a bunch of people, clearing the area and stuff like that. But then the FBI began investigating him as their prime suspect to be why did you know this bomb was here and all this other stuff.
Damn. I didn't read about any of that.
The guy who actually did it, Eric Rudolph, his stated motive was that he did all these bombings that he had been doing for a couple of years in opposition of the ideals of global socialism. So he was upset that the Olympics promoted all of us coming together in a way that he didn't think was right. And also he was protesting against abortion on demand. He was against that.
What's
because
abortion on?
What does it have to do with this?
What is abortion on demand?
Just people being able to choose to have abortions. He thought was wrong. He thinks. I guess I don't know if he just meant like life-saving.
On demand, as in like you need a waiting period, like when you buy a gun. Like I don't know what.
I think he just means it should be medically necessary, and that's it.
Okay.
Is what
Gotcha.
I think is going on. He also blew up 2 abortion clinics and a lesbian bar over the next 2 years.
Sounds like a disturbed individual.
Yes, he was pretty crazy. The family he came from was proof of how disturbed this man was. When they started to suspect it was him and the FBI was looking for him and stuff like that, his brother videotaped himself cutting off his left hand with a radial saw and sent it in to the FBI to, quote, send a message to the FBI and the media.
What message was that?
Exactly. That he would cut off his left hand for his brother. Good for you, man. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so obviously these folks are not mentally well.
What the fuck?
Right?
I don't even know what to say about that. Why? It's so stupid.
It was 1996, This is what was going on.
I guess.
It was a dangerous year, like I said. Gotta keep your helmet on your head on a swivel. All right, let's talk about TV. Number 1, if you follow along on the show, you know that the television seasons are measured from the beginning of the year till September, and then September onward lands on the next calendar year and so on. But all throughout the year, you have ER at number 1 and Seinfeld at number 2 solidly. Friends is at number 3, but it jumps to number 4 when Suddenly Susan debuts in the 3rd slot. So those are your top 3 programs.
I don't remember Suddenly Susan.
I did look into it. I was trying to see if I could find it to watch it, but it wasn't streaming. I was going to say it's Brooke Shields. Okay, that's why everyone wanted to watch it, because Brooke Shields was very popular.
Oh, the guy from Casper's in it.
That was another reason.
The English guy.
All right, well, Suddenly Susan came out. Very exciting to a lot of people to see Brooke Shields on their television shows. You also had a bunch of other TV programs that would debut. I guess I'll talk about some more sitcoms first off. You got Everybody Loves Raymond, Third Rock from the Sun, Moesha, Spin City, The Steve Harvey Show, Malcolm and Eddie, The Jamie Foxx Show, and then Clueless, based on the movie.
Did you watch Third Rock from the Sun?
No, I think we've talked about it possibly.
I know it's popular,
I don't like
but
French
I've never seen
Stewart. I've seen it before, and I just could not stand French Stewart. Even as a kid, I was like, ugh, this guy's annoying.
I never liked Everybody Loves Raymond.
Neither did I. Yeah, none of these are really any big shows that I would watch as a kid. I watch Moesha sometimes.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch I did watch.
Yes, that's Sabrina debuted as a TV movie first, and then came out with the show same year. And there were some live action kids shows that I watched at this point. None of these adult sitcoms, but Sabrina, obviously I watched that one, as well as Kenan and Kel.
Yep.
And The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. Did you ever watch that one?
No.
The girl who goes around solving mysteries in San Francisco. I'm pretty sure she lived in. It was a cool show. I watched that sometimes. One of those kind of forgotten Nickelodeon shows. Also, a live-action thing that came out was Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. Was one of the first Power Rangers. It was the first non-Mighty Morphin regular Power Rangers thing to come out. So this would start their thing of being now there's a million different versions of these guys. I got the original ones on my shirt, but not the space ones.
Okay. One more kids, I guess, esque sitcom is Seventh Heaven. Did you ever watch that show?
My sister loved Seventh Heaven. I never really watched it.
Watched it too. I never.
But yes, I didn't know what is that show? Is it a drama? Is it a kids show? I never really could pin it down.
I feel like it was. I don't know. I feel like it was like a Boy Meets World kind of show where it could be either or, maybe a teenage kind of show.
Yeah, that makes sense. Muppets Tonight. We've mentioned that before on the podcast. Also, in the puppet world, the Wubbalist World of Dr. Seuss. I loved that shit when I was a kid. Did you ever watch that one? It's like
I don't
Cat
think
in the
so.
Hat is like a puppet, and like they live in this
No.
crazy house and stuff. It's really sick. I loved it. And yeah, it's another one that like isn't, for some reason people don't talk about that show. But look up Wubbless. Actually, I'm gonna look up a picture right now because I think this show is worth putting in front of people's eyeballs. Because like I said, you don't really hear people talk about the Wubbless world of Dr. Seuss. You know what? I'm not gonna share the audio. That way, I don't have to mute it later.
Yeah, I don't remember this show.
Yeah, I used to love this one. It's really cool, really trippy show. Actually, like I said, live
long did
action
it last?
puppets. Let's see. So yeah, and they have the Yertle the turtle and characters and
yeah.
stuff from
Like
the rest
the
of
books.
the books. Yeah, really cool show. Let's see. When did it? It only had 2 seasons. It says. But there you go. Wubbless World of Dr. Seuss. Really neat show. And
Okay.
I don't know if you can find it. I guess that was an episode. You can watch it on YouTube. There you go. In the vein of children, they like cartoons. Let's run through a bunch of cool cartoons that came out. Blue's Clues. Still blending that live action cartoon thing. Man, Blue's Clues was awesome.
Yeah, I still put it on for my daughter, and it's like super nostalgic whenever I watch it with her.
Really great. Blue Skidoo, and you can too, ladies and gentlemen. And others. Whoever out there wants to skidoo, feel free. Hey Arnold came out. That's actually on right now. My dogs are watching it. I put it on for them to
Hell yeah.
pay attention while I'm doing other things. Kablam. I loved Kablam.
Oh yeah, I remember that show.
That show's sick. I rewatched that not too long ago on Paramount Plus. Arthur, the aardvark guy. Great show. Another one of my childhood favorites. Dexter's Lab.
Yes.
Once again, amazing. Also, the Quack Pack and the Mighty Ducks were both on Disney Channel. They're really throwing their eggs in that duck basket.
Yeah.
Well, we're off mice. What do kids like? Ducks now. Then the Superman, the animated series, as well as the Incredible Hulk cartoon. And Transformers Beast Wars came out this year, which was one of the first ever fully CGI animated shows.
Oh, that's cool.
Really cool show. It's really, I mean, people talk about how great it is. I haven't seen it since I was a little kid, but I used to love that too when I was a boy.
The Real Adventure of Johnny Quest came out. I watched it. It's only 1 season though, but there's 52 episodes. So I was like, I don't know why I would have watched it, but if there's 52 episodes, that makes sense why I've watched it.
Yeah. That's weird to call that 1 season unless they were seriously coming out with one every week.
Yeah, right. I guess.
Let's see. There's a bunch of these kind of new types of shows to come out and show people what would be the internet later on. So these aren't as popular now, but like shows like True Hollywood Stories, Access Hollywood, and VH1 Storytellers all kind of were shows that like, you know, getting the behind information that you're not going to hear normal places and stuff like that is now a thing. And then some reality TV shows that are coming out. Like really, Real TV was also just like YouTube before YouTube, where they just showed a bunch of videos of crazy things happening. Also, Judge Judy would debut, and that's one of the biggest shows of the 90s.
Oh yeah, and then that would go on to there's a bunch of other court shows that would come out of that.
Yeah. I think it's funny. It's like you had to go in and just accept what she was telling you. Like she wasn't really
Oh,
court.
she didn't give a fuck.
Well, it was like part of like the agreements before. It's like this is not a legal court, but you are legally like signing. If you're on the show, you're accepting her judgment as what's happening. So she could just be like, "Oh, fuck you! You know, I don't like you. You lose." You know, and you just had to deal with it.
Damn, that's kind of shitty.
Yeah, it was weird. It's a weird situation.
Why would you sign up for that if you're not gonna like actually get the justice that you were looking for?
Well, I mean, it's just like regular court, right? You go in and get proven wrong, but it's like in this case, you could be right technically. I don't know how often she did that. I didn't really watch it that much.
Well,
it's kind of one of those
like,
shows.
All right, get Amanda on this podcast. This is ridiculous.
Dang, definitely should have had her be a guest. She would remember all this stuff a lot better than I would too. She would have been like 7. So she has a good firm grasp on the legalities. One of my favorite programs to come out from this year debuted on the newly established Animal Planet. Animal Planet first came out October 1st, as well as Discovery Civilization, which would later be branded as ID. That's not one I watched too much, but I know sort of about it. But Animal Planet, that was huge for me as a kid. And The Crocodile Hunter debuted this year.
Hell yeah.
All-time classic.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Steve Irwin. Man, that guy taught me so much about animals. I really loved watching all sorts of animal shows when I was a kid, but
he really was inspirational. I really wanted to be a little zoologist.
Well, if you're still interested in that stuff, his son Robert does a lot of what he used to do. A lot of the conservation. He makes his own videos. He has his own, Instagram and TikTok, and he probably has YouTube channels. And he's still out there doing his dad's work. So,
Yeah, really good kid. I think I saw him on like Masked Singer or Dancing with the Stars or something like that. Like,
oh
not too long
really?
ago. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
On October 4th, you had Discovery Science Channel. October 7th, you have Fox News. And then on November 11th, Discovery Kids. Also in this year, on March 4th, Dish Network began service. And that was a huge thing for many years. I was always like, you go to a kid's house and like, we have Dish. Like, yes, dude, they have so many channels.
Yeah. Well, before you had one of those big ass satellites. I lived on a 3-acre ranch, and we had a satellite that you could get inside of. Like, you could climb inside of it. It was huge.
That's gnarly.
And then they were like, all right, well, now you can just put this little receiver on your roof, and you can get hundreds of channels. And then when we would change a channel, the satellite would be like,
whoa, that's crazy.
And move. It's crazy.
That's gnarly. Alrighty, now it's time to jump on over to the music charts for 1996. What's going on the Billboard Hot 100? We're going to take a look at numbers 5 through number 1. As always, you may follow along on Spotify. We have the playlist featuring the top 10 and then 40 other songs from the Hot 100 and then just other stuff that came out that year that did not land at the year-end Hot 100 charts. But to begin, let's hear about number 5.
All right, number 5 is Always Be My Baby by Mariah Carey. Released on February 20th, 1996, from her 5th studio album Daydream. It was nominated for the Best Female R&B Vocal Performance, and it was number 2 for 2 weeks, then it was number 1 for 2 weeks, and then it went back to number 2 for 5 more weeks. So it was pretty consistently in the top numbers.
This was her 11th number 1 single, tying Madonna and Whitney Houston for the most number 1s from a female artist. So
this was before or after Christmas.
And she was just so popular throughout the 90s, She was a huge artist. And just, that's really, most people just now know her for her Christmas things, obviously. We've talked about her before on the show, too, but this is one that I like by her a lot,
Oh, I did like this song. I think a lot of these songs are kind of nostalgic for me.
Yeah, I think in general, the top 5, there's kind of a lot of ballady stuff that, again, we've talked about before that I don't remember that strongly because it kind of just all sounded the same to me as a child. Now it's like listening to it, I kind of have a feel for these specific songs more. But every time I first heard them, I was kind of like, whatever, in one ear, out the other. And then the more I listened to them, the more I kind of grew to like them and have, a familiarity with them. But they just all sort of sounded the same to me at first. Not this one, because this one is very different than a lot of her stuff. Okie dokie, let's talk about number 4 on the chart. Nobody Knows by the Tony Rich Project. This came out on November 7th of 1995. Peaked at number 2 only, didn't actually hit number 1. It was the debut single from his debut album called Words. As far as accomplishments for the song, it did really well. It is number 136 on Billboard's all-time Hot 100 chart that they put out in 2018. So I guess according to the numbers that it's moved and stuff, it was number 136 ever at that point. It's the 26th best-selling song from the 1990s that on their list as well. Let's see, got Grammy nominations for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance, Best R&B Album, Best New Artist, and he won the Best Album Grammy. And that's, kind of most of the information about this particular song that I could dig up. I kept looking for more, and everything I saw just said Nobody Knows. He was a songwriter before this for LaFace Records. He wrote songs for Tony Braxton and Boyz II Men and TLC, among some other artists. And he did come out with music after this, and it just never had the same effect as this first song of his. He kind of just sort of came and went as far as the public was concerned.
This was the only song I didn't recognize, pretty much off the bat.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if I've heard it before.
I don't think I ever did either. Yeah, I never even heard of this guy. It was like Tony Rich. I figured he had done other things before looking it up, just from the name of the like
Yeah.
band, the name of the band, you know?
The Tony Rich Project. Yeah. That it's
Yeah, like this
is
guy had to
him.
be somebody else before this.
Yeah. Like I said, he did some songwriting. Well, he wasn't like huge, but you know, and then it said he'd made hits for these artists, but I didn't like include which songs of them he had written. So it's kind of hard to track down information about him. I didn't dig too deep, but I just couldn't find anything really. Like, you know, that was sort of speaking about anything other than the fact that the song did really, really well, and it was, you know, well received, and that was about it. Yeah.
Well, good job, Tony. Proud of you.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't care for the song that much.
No, it just seemed like another like poppy ballad.
Yeah, but then like
You
the
know?
lyrics I wasn't a fan of. I thought they were really simplistic and straightforward and stuff, and I just was like, oh well, sorry Tony, didn't work out. Worked out this one time, but that was it.
Yeah. Hopefully, he's still making money off it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll talk to him.
Maybe we'll put him back on. You know, and go back up.
Yeah, who knows? All right.
All right. Number 3 is "Because You Love Me" by Celine Dion. This was a theme from Up Close and Personal, which I didn't actually watch.
Neither did
But this song released on February 19th, 1996. It was Celine Dion's fourth English studio album, written by Diana Warren and produced by Dave Foster. It reached number 1, marking her second number 1, and it held the spot for 6 consecutive weeks.
It also topped the adult contemporary charts for 19 straight weeks.
Holy shit, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so that set a record. So another one that was very popular. I mean, according to Billboard, this is Celine Dion's biggest hit on their chart, which surprises me from some of her later songs, because this is another one that I recognized it, but I didn't know it that well. You know,
If somebody told me to name him a Celine Dion song, I don't think this one
yeah,
would have been
yeah.
the first one that I chose.
This is one that I did recognize a little bit more as number 2, which was "One Sweet Day" by Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men. This came out November 14th of 1995 and spent 16 weeks at the top of the charts, which was the longest run for 23 years until Old Town Road came out and did
Damn.
19 weeks. Yeah, 16 weeks. This was fucking hella popular. And again, but this was one that I was like, okay, I do recognize this one. I didn't know it off the top of my head. Like once I listened to it once or twice, it's like, oh yeah. Now I remember this one, because it just was not music for a kid to listen to. They actually distributed copies free to record stores, and then the stores in turn sold them for as little as 49 cents.
It's a good
So
way to
that-
get your record out there, especially if you already have 2 people that people know.
Yeah,
Two
that make tons
popular
of
groups,
money.
you know?
Yeah. This was number 1 on the decade end chart. So for the entire 90s, when they ended, Billboard put out their chart. This was the top selling. So,
Damn.
well, kind of surprised me too for not. Well, you know, I mean, her other songs. I guess it's just because the sound's more identifiable to me. But like her, you know, song that came in at number 5, "Always Be My Baby," like that, I immediately recognized. This one, it took me a little bit to remember, and I thought, I don't know that I heard this more than any other song throughout the 90s. You know.
Yeah.
This was her 10th number 1. So this one was prior to
Holy shit.
"Always Be My Baby" was her 11th. This was number 10. She kind of said that when they were making the song, she just wanted to work with Boyz II Men, that she thought for some reason this song like needed them. She said like this song was crying out for them as something. So when they had a meeting together, she played them like the chorus that she had and told them about the rough idea. And they said that they had written a song that was like almost the same lyrics, and like the chord progression worked out that they could fit over the same chords and stuff like that. And then she added some other lyrics to kind of relate it to the AIDS epidemic that had been going on around the country and the world. So I think that also probably did a lot to help its popularity. At the time, it was, you know, a hugely important issue to a lot of people, and so I think that made the song more popular, that it was connected to that, you know.
Yeah.
All right, but as much as AIDS is a bummer to bring it down on, let's talk about a completely polar opposite thing for number 1.
Definitely polar opposite from pretty much all of the top 5 songs. This is the Macarena by Los de Rio, and it featured the Bayside Boys. It was released on September 13th, 1993. At least the original song was. It was number 1 for 14 consecutive weeks. And this song you fucking know this song. You know the dance. And I didn't realize, I thought this song was old. I thought this song was like the chicken dance, where it was just like,
Oh, yeah.
everybody, it's been around forever, everyone knows it, but I didn't realize how new it was.
So, yeah, so this was a craze at the time. Like, that's why it was so popular. Now it's, people might remember it now, but, like, it was just everywhere. Like, people were doing it on the news and on fucking TV shows and the sporting events, and just
we did it
so
in school.
permeating.
In middle school, if you're in middle school, you're probably still dancing to this song before you start your real PE classes.
I wonder if they still have this around. It was our generation's Electric Slide. It was like that novelty song that just came out, and like the lyrics are pretty nuts to be playing it so much in front of kids, but it was a song that like kids enjoyed and adults enjoyed.
Yeah,
it's like the part where she's like, "Oh, my boyfriend was gone, so I hung out with his two friends. What was I supposed to do?" It's like,
I was like, "Is that all this song's about?" Because I don't know. And then the like Spanish lyrics are basically like, "Enjoy the time that you have." Like, well, she's really enjoying it.
She says to give your body joy, or he says, "Give your body joy."
Oh, is that what it said? Yeah, she's double penetration joy over there.
Yeah, it's kind of gnarly. This was on the Hot 100 for 60 weeks, which is the longest of any number one until Rolling in the Deep came out. So it held that record for quite a long time. The final number one week that it was, like the final week of it being at number one, was its 46th week on the chart, which is the latest any number one ever like stayed on the chart at that. Yeah, like lasted until basically.
Damn.
So yeah, it was just fucking for so much of the year. This song was inescapable. It's number 7 on Billboard's all-time Hot 100 that they came out with in 2012. So that might have changed since then, but it was one of the best-selling songs.
I mean, if it's number
ever.
12, it's still on the top 100. It has to just been bumped up a little bit, right? Like,
yeah, possibly. Number 500 on Billboard's greatest pop songs of all time.
I mean, we've talked about this before, that pop songs are just like, now they're just popular, whatever's popular at the time. But this is not a pop song.
No, and I don't know about greatest. It's not even saying like best performing or whatever. It's just saying that they think this song's great. I guess if you're talking about its influence and stuff like that, yeah. The original version of the song received 2 dance mixes by a band called Fangoria that were released in Spain. And they basically say that the Bayside Boys just plagiarized their River remix for the Bayside Boys remix. And they brought the case in front of like a European plagiarism court thing, but it didn't go through. So, how many different ways can you remix this song? But they were the ones to really take it away from being just like a regular like Spanish guitars and things like that song, and sort of add the dance beat. So they kind of made it into a dance song. That's what got it popular in European countries and things like that. But it wasn't until Jammin' Johnny Carride, a DJ at Power 96 in Miami, when he was DJing at a local club, he had club goers ask him to play the River mix version of the song, of the Macarena. And so then he brought the song to his supervisors, who asked him to make an English version, which I think it's so weird that he was tasked with. I think we've talked about that before, where like a DJ will bring a song to somebody, like a record company, and they're like, all right, well, you go ahead and make that into a song. It's like, yeah, he's a DJ, not a record producer. Yeah. But he was, tasked with, okay, we'll come up with a version we can play on our radio stations. So he recruited 2 of his partners at Bayside Records to remix the song. So those 2 dudes are actually the ones who like remixed it. They were the real Bayside Boys. I don't know how much money that this guy Jammin' Johnny is receiving from it. If he's included in the Bayside Boys because it was like his project, or if he just like had to come up with this, so he hired these 2 other guys and now he's cut out of the loop.
That would suck.
Yeah, but also he didn't have anything to do with the song. He just found it. He just had club goers tell him to play it. Then he asked his bosses, and then he passed the job along to 2 other dudes.
Yeah, but it's like being the middleman.
Yeah.
You have to have you have something to do with it.
Yeah, that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to make it. The actual dance was something that the band in concert would do. Like they were just kind of ad-libbing some motions at one point, and then the audience just responded by doing the same stuff. And then like between concerts, the crowds would like share with each other what had happened at the concert. They would add new stuff, and so then it just became like this really long, intricate dance. And then that got simplified, and they choreographed it for the music video. And that's why the dance is so popular, went along with the music video. But it had kind of already existed prior. This same year, he released a Christmas version. I don't know if you saw that. I added it to the playlist kind of late, but it's at the bottom. There's a Christmas version of this where it just like randomly, it's like the Macarena for a second, and then it just like total tone shift into like some girl singing about like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and shit like that. It's very weird.
No, I didn't see that.
And also a song that was released this year in conjunction sort of was a song called Fuck Macarena by MC Rage that peaked at number 7 in the Netherlands. It did pretty well
shit.
over there. Yeah. So he actually he's a United States artist, and he just hated this song so much he put out this song, but it did really well on Dutch radio. Yeah, I mean, like you said, this song was, everybody knew it. It was all over the place, and everybody knew the dances for years and years, and I wonder now if you ask a child, like, do the Macarena, if they know what it is, you know?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I mean, unless, like I said, unless you're in middle school and they're teaching you this, then I don't think you would know it. I mean, I don't play this for my kids. Just
Yeah. But, like, you know, yeah, I think it was in PE that we had to learn the electric slide at one point as a kid.
Yeah,
So I
that
could see
too.
them doing the Macarena. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, that's all I have to say about the top 5. What about you?
Yeah. I'm all good. Let's move on to some other musica.
The top 50 or the top 100, the 50 first songs on our playlist here, there's a lot that I recognize and love, but there's so much that didn't hit the top 100 that I was really shocked about as well.
Yeah, well, one of the ones that did, I mean, I'm sure Tupac's death had something to do with him being on here. Tupac's on here, California Love.
Good song. I like that one.
Yeah.
Actually, the first 11 songs on this one are the top 10 because You're Making Me High and Let It Flow by Tony Braxton was a double A side. So I couldn't really make the choice of which one to put on there. But there were a couple songs that were double A sides. That was pretty popular throughout this year. But I just ended up choosing the more popular ones. I think possibly Follow You Down by the Gin Blossoms was a similar situation. There were a couple that I know for sure were double A sides.
Tracy Chapman is one of those artists that I feel like is so much older than she is.
Yeah, I feel you. I love The Crossroads by Bone Thugs and Harmony. That's probably my favorite song in the top 10.
I'm surprised it's in the top 10. I would say that is my favorite, actually. Yeah.
But there's like so many cool ones in the top 100. You got Gangsta's Paradise that came out and did really well, but that also led to Weird Al coming out this year with Amish Paradise, one of his
good.
best parody songs.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking in the terms of the funny songs on here, did you listen to any of the rest towards the bottom of it, like the I Got Erection by Turbo Negro? I didn't know that was. I remember the Narkill version, Brandon D. Camillo's band.
No, I didn't listen to that one.
One of the funny ones here is Fred Schneider came out with an album called Just Fred. He's the guy from the B-52s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I was like, what the hell? What is this about? Like, why would he need, like, that seems terrible to just have an album of him just like, hey, everybody, where are we going now? But I listened to it, and actually I kind of liked it. It's sort of like punk music, but just with his voice over it, you know?
Yeah, it is like punk music. I did listen to that. Speaking of punk, a lot of good punk music did come out this year.
Oh, yeah.
AFI, Anti-Flag, Social D, Bad Religion, The Descendants, Less Than Jake, Goldfinger, Real Big Fish. I mean, some of those are like ska bands too, but the kind of same vein, the post-punk kind of era. There's a lot of good, just like rock music
song.
in this style of like in this era. Cake,
Yeah. Butthole Surfers with the song Pepper.
yeah. Rage Against the Machines.
That was one of the ones that I was surprised that Bulls on Parade wasn't a higher performing song.
Makes sense.
And
I don't think that was I don't think they were popular coming out. I feel like they gained popularity as they went on.
yeah, I mean, Sublime is kind of like that too. What I Got was not that popular at the time. I think it gained popularity later.
Uh-huh.
But I think the songs, like a couple specifically, were Push by Matchbox 20 and One Headlight by the Wallflowers. That I was like, how the fuck did these not end up on the Hot 100? And there were like rules that they weren't, because they weren't issued as a like physical single. They received enough airplay that they would have been in the top 100 for sure by the end of the year at least. But also they weren't able to chart at all because they didn't actually release a single to record stores or anything like that. They just played it on the radio and things like that. So Push was one of the most played songs of the year. It performed better than most of the stuff in the top 100. It just didn't have a physical release, so it was not able to be considered. I thought that was interesting. Because I'm positive that rule is not around anymore, because I don't think anybody does that. You know, it's kind of cool if you see that. But yeah, and you know, this was when the internet was starting and stuff, so that rule I'm sure changed pretty quickly afterwards. But One Headlight also was on a bunch of like the most played on the radio list. It just wasn't able to be on the Hot 100 specifically. Backstreet Boys debuted in Europe, so they were not in the U.S. yet, but they could be coming over shortly.
They're English? I didn't know that. Or
No, they were just they were like
popular.
They were just they were shopped around there first, I think, to kind of get them going. And it's probably, you know, a marketing thing to be like, look, these guys are big in Europe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Instead of just trying to push around some no-name band who's going to give a shit, but you have to be like, hey, these guys are really popular overseas. You know, so this is the start of that era about to happen. 1996, not quite ready for the boy band, the sunniness of the boy bands. We're all pissed off and violent this year. Give us a little bit.
We need some time.
We'll be ready to dance. But the Macarena came in and said, everybody, that's like the one sunny thing to happen. Even in like the TV, the number one show was ER, you know?
Yeah.
So like the Macarena was the one thing that people were like, all right, we can take a break and dance, and then we have to get back to
to being sad.
Seeing terrible violence. All right. Well, speaking of terrible violence, let's get to one of the, you know, pound for pound, it's got to be one of the most violent movies ever to hit number one.
Yeah.
The amount of, I'm sure, devastation that occurred.
A lot. Yeah, holy shit. So this year, our highest grossing movie of the year in the U.S. is Independence Day.
This is off the VHS cover. I pulled the synopsis. One of the biggest box office hits of all time delivers the ultimate encounter when mysterious and powerful aliens launch an all-out invasion against the human race. The spectacle begins when massive spaceships appear in Earth's skies, but wonder turns to terror as the ships blast destructive beams of fire down on cities all over the planet. Now the world's only hope lies with a determined band of survivors uniting for one last strike against the invaders before it's the end of mankind. Independence Day was released on July 3rd of 1996. That was pretty, you know, I mean, they got it in there it was in theaters on Independence Day. Yeah. I would have thought that it came out before it. You know, you don't release Christmas movies on Christmas Day, but
that's true.
They got it in there July 3rd. Directed by Roland Emmerich, or Emmerich, I don't know. Written by Dean Delvin and Roland, that name. Starring Will Smith, Bill Pullman, and Jeff Goldblum. It had a budget of $75 million approximately and grossed $306 million in 1996, which was the second highest of all time behind Jurassic Park. Another Goldblum venture. He was very popular.
Yeah, he was.
Interesting. He's
I think
kind of
it's
a weird
funny.
guy to think he was in these really huge movies, you know?
Well, I mean, it's not that weird that he was in it. It's weird that he plays the smart guy, or like a scientist, I guess, in both of these.
Yeah, in both of them, yeah.
Because before that, he was like either like the sexy guy or like a comic relief like kind of person, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That is a good point. Yeah, I think that's, and it's actually he plays two different types of guys in this in Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park, he's like the cool scientist, which is funny that he's still a scientist, but he's like the rock star scientist they call him. And then in this, he's, you know, very nerdy sort of a dude. I think he still is Jeff. He's actually an actor who does play a version of himself all the time, but he does step into that persona. He doesn't like change himself, but he changes, you know,
things
facets
about
of
him
himself to match.
Yeah.
I love him as an actor.
He did. He's really good. And I guess I haven't seen this movie in a very long time. I didn't realize he was in it.
Oh, really?
Until I started watching it, and I was like, oh, shit, I forgot that. I mean, I knew Will Smith and Bill Pullman was in it.
Yeah, I guess he's not as remembered. He doesn't have, like, Bill Pullman has the huge speech at the end that everyone talks about, and Will Smith, this was
the alien, he punches alien. That's the part you see all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this was his first big starring movie, so this was, like, his introduction to the world. So you remember it for that reason. Jeff Goldblum, yeah, what is his big line in it? Independence finds a day.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so I mean, he doesn't have too many memorable moments in this movie, I guess. I also feel like I haven't seen it, at least in a very, very long time. I think I watched it a couple times when I was a kid, but back then I realized while I was watching it, I think I was like, you know, there aren't enough aliens in it, I think, to hold my attention as a child. It's kind of a lot of people run around and talking. You see the ships a decent amount, but you don't really see the aliens very much. Which, you know, now that I'm older is fine, but I think as a kid I just found it a little boring, you know?
Yeah.
which is crazy now watching it to think. I mean, a lot of action happens, and then a lot of action doesn't happen for a long time while they're figuring shit out, you know?
Yeah. I guess I didn't realize I mean, you always see the video of like the White House blowing up.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much devastation happened across like the world.
Yeah.
Like every major city and like a lot of major cities in the U.S. were just like obliterated.
And yeah, all over Paris and stuff like that was going on. And
Yeah.
the model work for this movie is so fantastic.
Oh
It's
yeah,
incredible.
It was probably a lot of fun blowing up like the little marbles and shit. Like,
This is the most miniature work ever done in any film. People said that you could take two of any films ever and put them together, and it still wouldn't equal Independence Day's model work.
damn.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes
looks
sense.
so cool.
Yeah.
You know, I wish they would do that now. I hate that you just don't see that anymore because it's a real explosion that you're watching. You're watching real fire.
And then like
And-
really things like blow up.
Yeah,
You're
they
watching
really go off the directions they should.
objects and yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's like you just don't get that same level of realism, obviously, with the computer. It just doesn't look as good, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy because it was shot in only 72 days.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a crazy amount of time for any movie, let alone a gigantic blockbuster like this, you know? With all of that, especially all the model work and stuff, to think they just did it that quickly is crazy.
They're like, all right, let's build these little models and let's fucking blow them up. I could see why a bunch of dudes would get down to doing that real quick.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you just like, fuck, we're already done with all the model blowing up. Oh, shit. It took a month. The script was written in only 4 weeks. Speaking of a month, this movie was just a fucking a fast turnaround, you know? Less than 3 months from writing it to getting it completed, you know?
Damn, that's crazy.
Basically. Yeah, gnarly. It was sent out on a Thursday, the script, and they were in pre-production that Monday. So
Damn.
it was just sold over the weekend. And then on Monday morning, they were ready to start getting stuff together to start shooting it.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
The big thing, too, they were really pushing to release the movie before Mars Attacks because they got wind of Mars Attacks being made, and they were like, oh, shit, these movies are shockingly similar. And so they really pushed to get it out. And actually, Burton ended up having to move the release of Mars Attacks to Christmas to not compete with this one. Like, they ended up going, okay, that movie did way too well, so I guess let's move this back farther than we were planning. So, and sort of ended up killing Mars Attacks' chances at doing well at the box office.
I think Mars Attacks holds up pretty well, though. I think it's like a cult
it's so
classic
good.
kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome. I just watched it this week to, you know, get in the spirit of this year. And I'd never seen them so close, you know, within a couple days of each other. And I was like, damn, this feels like a parody of Independence Day. It's so similar. Like, not just the idea of aliens coming and stuff, but like the kids out in the middle of in like the RV and stuff like that with Randy Quaid in this movie. And then like there's the kid in Mars Attacks with his like his older brother is Jack Black. It kind of feels like that's a joke being made about this one. There's a lot, and like all of the different storylines that converge and stuff. You know, this movie does that, and so does Mars Attacks, where it's like 10 different stories, all of a bunch of different people all over the country. Now that I'm
Yeah.
like remembering too, and so I'm having a hard time keeping the different storylines separated because they're so damn similar.
Dean Delvin said that the U.S. military agreed to support the film by allowing the crew to film at military bases, but then once learning about all the Area 51 references that the script had, the military bailed out and said, you're on your own.
Yeah, I thought that was gnarly. They were like,
What are you hiding?
it's hitting too close to home. We got to get out of here.
Yeah, right? Can't
The movie
support
actually
this.
features real Area 51 footage at one point too. When
That's
they're,
kinda
it's at one point when they're like having a debriefing and there's like a pan shot outside of night vision. It's real footage from a conspiracy theorist who went up on Freedom Ridge, is what it was called. This place that you used to be able to get up on top of and look and see into Area 51. Was closed to the public in the late 90s. So
That's kinda
more
cool.
of- yeah, but more of them actually full on. I mean, it makes sense to be hiding what's happening in a base, but it's also though does lead you to question what are they doing there? That all of this involvement really spooked the military, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I believe like everything, all the conspiracies that come out of it, just because they don't say anything. So I'm just going to be like, yep, that's probably true.
I guess so.
Like,
yeah.
you
Well,
know.
you're not defending it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, they're not going to
it's
tell
hard
us anything, then you guys are sucking aliens' dicks in there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. See, I'm thinking too, like, if it's like, no, well, they can't tell us what actually is there. They'll just rather have us believing that. But also, like, if it's something is super important that you're keeping there, like, why not move it? You know? Everyone
sure
knows
they
about
have.
Area 51. Let's move it away.
Did you remember when everybody was going to storm Area 51?
Yeah, I thought about that. I was like, it's so funny. I wonder if anybody showed up.
I don't know.
I mean, there had to be a couple people at least.
At
you know?
least.
Probably somebody driving by and being like, oh, nope, there's not a crowd. Keep driving. You know, we don't want to be the only ones there.
And I like how he just shows up to Area 51 with an alien. Like,
Yeah, they just let him in.
You need clearance.
That part it's fun. Yeah, here's my clearance, and it's like, okay, let him in, and then all the other RVs too, let them all in also. It's
Yeah.
like, you would stop. You would let the one guy in, maybe, but
Right.
you wouldn't bring in 35
Or you would
RVs.
shoot that guy, take his alien, and then not ever speak
Yeah.
of it ever again. Probably.
Probably. Yeah, I thought that was a little. But I guess at that point, it's like, fuck it, who cares, dude? Shit's going down. Maybe these fucking rednecks in their RVs know more than we do. Let's let them in.
Well, at the same time, it's like, what are you hiding? It's like there's fucking alien ships in the
Yeah.
sky. Like,
Yeah,
what are
right.
you
Hey,
hiding
come on
at
in.
this
Hey,
point?
you got one of those too? We got some of those. Bring it in.
Yeah.
Well, you put your alien with our aliens. Speaking of the aliens, and also to tie this back up to the fact that Mars Attacks in this movie are so similar, Frank Welker did the alien voices in both movies. We've mentioned Frank Welker on the podcast before. He's the one who does the voices of Abu and I can't remember specifically what. Oh, was it? Shit, I can't remember what it was in that we talked about him doing the voices in. But Lions roars in The Lion King. So, but this was time too. In Mars Attacks, he does all the ack stuff, but he also does the alien voices in this movie. Or
Okay.
noises, whatever. When they're making noise, it's him.
Yeah.
Also, the White House sets in both movies are the same as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so a lot of similarities between these two, but they were just happening at the same time. I don't know why. The only thing I could think of is that Tim Burton wanted to do it to like spoof the other one, but it was based on a Mars Attacks like property that already existed. There was like a line of trading cards, so this was already in development too. So they just happened to be very similar and coincide with each other.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't really notice. I haven't seen that movie in forever either. Mars Attacks.
Yeah, I
Seen it
hadn't in a
more
long time,
rec- more recently than this one, I would say.
There's a lot of casting stuff that went on with this movie. As always, I'm always interested to know what might have been. Will Smith was the first choice for Hiller after the filmmakers had seen 6 Degrees of Separation. So that's who they were really hoping for, but he was, not a big-time actor at this point. He really was mostly known for The Fresh Prince and his acting stuff. The Fresh Prince was still on the air at this point. It actually ended in 96, so this was him transitioning.
Okay.
But people only knew him as playing like a little high school funny boy, you know what I mean? For years. So they kind of assumed that wasn't going to happen. So they had Eddie Murphy as like their backup plan. Because he's a bankable star at this point, so we'll have Eddie Murphy instead of him if they don't want Will Smith. But the studio was like super against casting a black actor. So it wasn't even just Will Smith wasn't going to make it. They didn't want to have Eddie Murphy either. They were like, no, they told him pretty explicitly, like, we wanted you to cast a white guy. They came up with the ideas of Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, Keanu Reeves. Hey, you guys, you said white. He's part Asian. Jean-Claude Van Damme and Billy Baldwin. They were all in the running as far as the studio was concerned. But the director and the writers and everything held out, and they got Will Smith to be the part.
Hell yeah. Good for you, Will.
Yeah, I know, and totally fucking made him a superstar for years to come.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, he was jacked in this movie, too.
Yeah, he was. He was not the skinny little Fresh Prince anymore. He was a fresh king. The president character was actually written as sort of a Nixon type, and they wanted Kevin Spacey to play him. But the studio vetoed Spacey because he wasn't. They were like, he's not going to be a star. Like, he's not a star actor. He's perfectly fine, but he's not a star. After this, he would go on to become a huge actor for many years, but this was kind of before he was a household name, I think. One that was very interesting to me was the part of David Levinson that would go to Jeff Goldblum. That was actually offered to Matthew Broderick.
Oh, really?
But he had to turn down because of his schedule. I'm pretty sure he was filming a movie we'll talk about a little bit when we get to the comedy section. But yeah, he was supposed to be that, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Not that I hate Matthew Broderick. I don't love him, he's fine. He's neither here nor there to me, but obviously I mentioned I love Jeff Goldblum, so I'm glad that he
Yeah.
got the part instead.
I'm much happier with Jeff Goldblum taking that part.
Matthew Perry was offered the part of Captain Wilder that ended up going to Harry Connick Jr. He was like ready to do it, and then he just pulled out at the last minute. I'm not sure why, or if I think he had a different movie going on this year, but also he had Friends and stuff like that. I don't know. He's also had a lot of other publicized troubles, so maybe those have something to do with it. But Harry Connick Jr. got the part instead. Harry Connick Jr. is fine in the movie, I guess. Would have been cool to see Matthew Perry though.
Yeah, another person to be recognized, I guess, especially for the time, I guess.
And then the last little casting thing here is Jada Pinkett at the time, was how she was known still. Jada Pinkett was offered the role of Jasmine, but she had also schedule conflicts that she couldn't get around. We will mention in the comedy section as well. But obviously she would go on to meet Will Smith later in life.
Yeah, maybe, who knows? Maybe they would have hated each other at this point.
Maybe. Man, what might have been? Like, yeah, they could have just rubbed each other the wrong way. They were younger, and then he never would have gone off the deep end and could have been still a beloved actor. My favorite part is when he opens up the cockpit, when the alien, busts his head out, and then he slaps it, and he goes, "Keep my planet's name out your motherfucking mouth."
When he opens the cockpit, I was like, how the fuck did he know how to do that? Or did the alien do it? I was like, what the fuck?
That's funny, yeah. Yeah, it did kind of seem like, there's a button on the outside you just have to press to open this thing that is immediately apparent?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some stuff that's sort of like, why would our technology be able to interface with their technology? That doesn't make any sense. You can't even plug a fucking certain phone into the wrong computer,
Yeah, and then be able to bug it, too.
Yeah, it was just like, all right, sure. I mean, the infrared ports from that one phone that they had that I mentioned earlier,
right.
They plugged that into the thing. Like, yeah, you couldn't fucking take technology from back then and hack an iPhone now,
Yeah, right? Yeah, I don't
know. Some of the science doesn't quite hold up, surprisingly. Overall, watching the movie, aside from all this backstage stuff, I do think that there were too many plot lines, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see that. Too many things happening.
Yeah, just like all the different stories of all the people. Because, not that they didn't do a good job with it. It's a long movie, so they did a good job of, weaving everybody together and tying it all up in certain ways and stuff. But the beginning of the movie felt very much like, we got a lot of folks to get through. So here's a couple minutes of them. You see them, they're like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. All right, on to the next guy. Come on. There's a lot of... Here's Will Smith. These are the people he knows. This is his situation. He's leaving now. Okay, next scene. Here's how Jeff Goldblum operates at work. Here's Harvey Fierstein. Loved to see him in the movie. I was so happy to have him in there. He's not in enough stuff. I think he does a lot of I looked into him because I thought, why was Harvey Fierstein? He was in everything back in the 90s. He was in Mrs. Doubtfire. He was in this. He just was everywhere. And then he just disappeared, I feel like. And he did a lot of writing for Broadway and stuff like that after.
Oh, okay.
Once he
I feel like there's just so many roles that you can play as him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How many movies are you going to be in just doing that over and over again?
Yeah.
Then you get sick of it and you just start writing stuff. That's probably what it was. He's like, I'm sick of being cast in the same role every single movie. I'm just going to start writing things for other. These are the parts I wish I could play if I didn't sound the ridiculous way I sound. There was actually one more tie-in to the Unabomber to bring it on home. That when they were filming it at LAX, it got delayed because of a bomb threat from the Unabomber.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so he still hadn't been caught yet when they were filming the movie. And I don't know if it actually came from him or what. I just saw that. He somehow, I don't know if they thought he had planted a bomb or if somebody called in and said they were him or what, but they had to shut down production for a couple days.
Damn, that's crazy. Well, they didn't get him soon enough, I guess.
No, but the filmmakers had their helmets on their heads and their head on a swivel, and they were able to stop before anything bad happened. So yeah, I thought that was nuts, man. He's still terrorizing even movie productions.
One thing I thought was funny was that the scene where they shoot the alien through the glass.
Yeah.
That was done because test audiences didn't think that the aliens were suffering enough.
Oh, wow.
So the test audience was like, we're just getting our asses kicked over here, guys. And then you got one that you have out and vulnerable, and you say they're vulnerable, and then you just let them fuck us all up again.
Damn. Okay, that's crazy.
I guess I get why that would be a little frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's funny that they threw that in there. I mean, I typically feel that way a lot at like the end of some big revenge movie, where like at the very end he just is like, and now it's over, and just shoots the guy, and you're like, the guy didn't get to like suffer at all. He just got killed immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I need to see you torture him or something. Can we send him to jail at least? Or I don't know. Damn, this guy seems like he's now just gone, you know? He's done having to deal with what he made put you through. You're going to be sad about this a lot longer than he ever had to be. He was upset for like 5 seconds right before he died. But
yeah, now you got to live with it still for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I thought was funny was the people in LA on top of the building, like trying to be taken away. Like, I have so many fucking people would do that.
Yeah, for sure.
There would be so many people that are like, I knew it. Take me, probe me.
Well, it's like, you gotta assume, like, they're showing up here. If they're not blowing us up, then it's gonna be a good thing. You know what I mean? They're not just gonna come and like make things marginally worse or something like that. It's either like all or nothing. You know,
they just like become the president and just do shitty government jobs.
Yeah, they just move in and they're just they just look different from us, but they're just like new immigrants that we have to deal with. I mean, that's could be the way it is. I don't know. You either have to be one or the other. I think I'm going to go ahead and have some cautious time first and sit back and be, I'm going to watch and see what they do before I run up to the building and try to tell them to come take me.
Well, I feel like if they were coming in peace, they wouldn't show up unannounced.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, hey, we're coming. Don't freak out. But
yeah, right. Like somebody in the higher governments or somebody would know at some point. You know what I mean?
Probably. Or yeah, they just send like one guy out first to just come meet the president and be like, "What? This is what's about to happen."
They did in 1951.
Yeah, exactly. So we fucked this up.
What I did thought was weird was the scene with the dog. When they're in the car and the girl and the little boy are escaping through the tunnel and she finds that door and then like they make it and then you're like, cool. And then they're like, the dog! And they like turn around and they're like, get over here, Skippy, whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah.
And he like jumps in and the fire like blows behind him and I was like, was that
was dorky.
Really necessary? You guys could have made that whole scene with her and I would have been
the dog
just
following,
Yeah.
Like if you need to include him. Also, one of those things I always point out how funny it is to me that people have like that relationship with seeing dogs killed in things. Like it immediately upsets so many people to see a dog die in a movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, that went so far over the line. And I remember we were talking about that once in the garage one day when we were in the condo, and then we were talking about the movie I Am Legend, and a big group of people, and somebody was like, "Oh, it's so fucked up when the dog dies," and I was like, "I just want to point out that every other human being on Earth has died at this point, like." Nobody's alive. All your friends and family, everybody in the whole world.
You included.
You're dead. Everyone's died. And you see like the zombies, like the ravaged corpses of these people and stuff like that. But like the one dog left gets killed. And that's really sad. Like I agree. I was sad too. But I just think it's funny. We as humans can just see all this and be like, damn, what a pity. And then the dog, you're like, no, not the dog. And that shot was the same thing where you're like, that fire is consuming just carfuls of people as it rolls by. And then you see the dog. You're like, you better save that fucking dog.
Right.
There's that weird thing and then not to mention the fact that the fire would have still eaten them alive, even though they're 1 foot over from it.
I thought they would have closed the door. I thought that was going to be the last close
the
door
door
before the
closed
fire
even,
came. Yeah,
I would have been like okay with it because then it's still like that still would have fried them.
Oh yeah, they would have been. Oh yeah, they would have been done.
That shot was pretty cool actually. The way they like made it, the fire shoot through the tunnel was that they had like a model that they tilted upwards and then set fire to the bottom of it, so the fire's crawling up, and like the way it naturally would, and then they just made it horizontal and sped up the footage so it looked like an explosion. Really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then there was another also like Will Smith walking through the salt flats with the alien dragon behind him. He's like, "What is that smell?" that was ad-libbed because there really were a bunch of like that
like sulfur.
Well, it's a bunch of dead shrimp that like. They are only born every so often, and like when the when that riverbed or lake bed dries out, they all just like decompose just like a couple inches underneath the surface. So walking through it and dragging that thing is like spewing up all this dead shrimp smell into his face.
Oh, it's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I always think of the Austin Powers where Dr. Evil was talking to all of the world leaders.
Yeah, they all jump under the table.
Yeah.
That was just footage from the movie Independence Day.
But it would be a lot like it. Yeah.
That's so funny. All right. Well, let's see. On a scale of 1,996 big old fat cigars, what are you going to give this movie?
1,776.
Very patriotic.
Big fat cigars. Smoke one down for George Washington.
I am going to give this movie 1,500 fat cigars for this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I think I
think it's-
overestimated a little bit.
Yeah, patriotic. It's happened before on the show. It's an easy thing to do to get swept up in the patriotism. All right, let's see. Let's talk about some other movies that came out this year. As far as your action films, and another one that was very emblematic of the 1990s decade, Twister.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if it hadn't been for, I don't know for sure, but I feel like that would have been the movie everyone talked about from this year because it was so popular, got referenced for years, the cow flying around, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
They made a sequel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't make a sequel to this.
Yes, they did.
To Independence Day?
Yeah, Independence Day Resurgence. It came out in 2016.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I saw that one, and I don't remember even a fucking second of it. It was not nothing to write home about.
I've never even heard of it, so it can't be that good.
Another movie they made a fuck ton of sequels about was Mission Impossible. First one came out this year.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There also was The Rock, starring Sean Connery.
I love that movie.
It's a good one. Dragonheart, Eraser, and Set It Off is a good one. Have you seen that with Queen Latifah? Where they rob banks? That's a good one. Some critically acclaimed movies from the year are things like Train Spotting.
I've never seen that one.
Really? Oh, I love that movie. The first one is great. That's another one that they made a sequel of. I never saw the sequel, I don't think, but the original is awesome. The English Patient, Romeo plus Juliet.
Yeah, I had that on VHS.
Oh, yeah? I've never seen it.
Fargo, too.
Yes, Fargo is... I rewatched that this week. That's a great, fucking awesome movie.
I
Dude,
watched it for the first time like a year and a half ago.
What do you think of it?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I really did. It was really good.
It's so funny. So often when I'm doing this, I'll throw on movies and I'll be doing research and stuff between and things like that. And this, as soon as Fargo started, even though I've seen it before, I was just like so engrossed in everything that everyone's saying. Like the way the Coen brothers write movies is just like the dialogue is so snappy and everything that I was just like totally paying attention and like laughing at like the so perfectly accurate portrayals of the people in that part of the country, Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I told him, and then he told me, and then
Oh, don't you worry about that. Yeah. So funny.
I am worried about it.
Some other good comedies that were like, highbrow sort of stuff. The Birdcage is awesome, starring Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. That movie's so good. They are two gay club owners, and his son is bringing his fiance's parents to come meet them. So Robin
I
Williams
remember
and Nathan Lane
that
have
movie.
they have to pretend that they're not gay.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
And so then it's like they live upstairs of this gay club, and it's like everybody in their lives is very gay and stuff, and they have to pretend to be something else. And that movie's hilarious. Also, That Thing You Do about the band. I've seen that like once. I remember it being all right. Swingers, starring Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau. Never seen it, always meant to. Same thing with Welcome to the Dollhouse.
I wanted to watch that movie Swingers this week, and I didn't.
Yeah, I forgot I saw it on something. Was like, oh, I'm going to watch this, and forgot to come back to it. And then Bottle Rocket. That's another one people like a lot. Wes Anderson's, I think it's his first movie. He might have done something small beforehand, but it was his first, thing that got him some acclaim. It's all right. It's, it's good. It's got a young Owen Wilson in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he helped write. I mean, he wrote the movie, I think, and then Wes Anderson helped him make it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Kingpin. Did you say that?
No, Kingpin's great. I haven't seen that in a while.
I like that movie. I guess in the end of that, when Bill Murray is bowling, he really bowls and does all of those things.
Yeah,
the whole
it's
time.
yeah, it's he's really just, and the crowd is freaking out because he's really fucking putting on a show.
Yeah, like everybody's like, yes.
It's so cool. Happy Gilmore came out as well. We had another movie with a sequel years later.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Kingpin. That's got Bill Murray in it. Happy Gilmore has Adam Sandler. Bulletproof also stars Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans. So a lot of these SNL movies coming out, SNL alumni, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Black Sheep as well, David
yeah.
Spade and Chris Farley. As well as Don't Be a Menace, which has Damon Wayans in it. Damon Wayans actually did do a season of SNL, which I guess I'd forgotten about.
I didn't know that.
Went on to do his own show, In Living Color, which also features a little guy by the name of Jim Carrey. So we got in the same In Living Color alumni movies. The Cable Guy came out this year.
I love that movie.
That's where I think Matthew Broderick probably was off filming when he didn't do Independence Day.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I would assume. Jada Pinkett was off filming The Nutty Professor. It's also starring SNL alum, Mr. Eddie Murphy. And then there were a bunch of science-y comedy movies. There was Mars Attacks, there was The Nutty Professor, there was also Biodome, as well as Multiplicity. So like a bunch of science-based things for comedy.
Never seen Multiplicity.
Multiplicity is Michael Keaton, and he like clones himself. You know, it was like a parodied a lot later, where it's like the clones come out and they all have slightly different personalities. You know, like one of them's the mean version of him, one's kind of the stupid version of him, and stuff like that. I remember a Jimmy Neutron episode that did the same thing. That's the whole time I was watching it. I was like, oh yeah, this is like Jimmy Neutron. Also a science comedy, Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie.
Hell yeah.
Which I have not seen the movie in a really long time. I feel like it's just a long episode. It's not even a long episode. It's just an episode of the TV show they put in movie theaters, but I don't remember if there's like something different about it.
I don't remember what movie that they did on there.
It's This Island Earth is the movie from it, which I'm pretty sure I've seen. I just don't remember anything remarkable. I think when I watched it, I didn't realize it was the movie version, you know? But
yeah, I don't think so.
It would have been cool, I guess, to see it in theater. So it's like that and Beavis and Butthead. Like you get to go just watch a long episode, or in this case, just an episode in an actual theater.
Yeah.
On the kids' films, you got Space Jam. I rewatched that this week.
Great movie.
That's so good. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, I actually watched that as well, and man, it is so much darker than I remembered.
Yeah. I rewatched that movie too this week.
Yeah, man, it's like obviously there's like him being abandoned, and then, you know, there's Frollo, like the villain, his only motivation is that he wants to fuck somebody and he's not allowed to. Like for a Disney movie, that's wild to choose that story, you know?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is based on I think a book or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was like, I know this is that, but also you just don't have, there's no one forcing you to make the Notre Dame movie, you know?
Yeah, or you could change it.
They just shouldn't have picked that. Like, why is a hunchback the thing that we're choosing to make like a kids movie about? It's just not a good story to be using, I think, you know?
Yeah.
Like they treat him so horribly, like the humiliating him in the
town
Festival of Fools. Yeah, I was like, damn, this is so sad. There's also a lot of like nut shots for a Disney movie, you know, like a lot of people getting kicked in the balls. There's a lot
the
of
gargoyles are
too.
pretty funny.
Yeah, that's what I remember liking about it as a kid. For kids also, there is James and the Giant Peach, which was
I watched that movie the other day too.
Oh, so good.
Before we decided to do this, because it's Halloween time, it's the only reason I put it on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see it being kind of Halloween-y. That was all year round classic to me. I loved that movie so much as a kid. I really loved the claymation stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, my daughter has been really liking the claymation stuff. We've been watching The Nightmare Before Christmas and all that stuff, so I was like, I'm going to put on James and the Giant Peach. I'm sure she would like that too.
That's cool. I love that movie. That's the life for me. Muppet Treasure Island also came out this year.
I watched that movie too. I watched a lot of kids' movies this week.
I haven't seen Muppet Treasure Island in years. Tim Curry, though, I mean, he's
so good.
Awesome.
So good. You should rewatch it because it's such a good movie. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely. Also, Matilda. That movie was another one that I grew up loving. Actually directed by Danny DeVito. This year also saw the release of Kazam, which is the big source of that, you know, Mandela effect. It's the one starring Shaq as the genie. Everyone says it's supposed to be Sinbad and called Shazam.
I remember that Sinbad movie, so I don't know what to tell people.
think you're misremembering. You can't remember anything else from this year.
No, but I do remember seeing previews for that and seeing Sinbad on it.
I just
Just
feel like
saying, I
you're
remember it.
misremembering.
I don't know.
I remember Kazam. I used to love Kazam. You know, there's a part where he like makes a bunch of Big Macs rain from the sky and stuff like that. That's
Oh
a cool
yeah, I
movie.
remember that.
The 101 Dalmatians movie came out with Glenn Close. I thought that movie was later. I didn't realize it was that early on. The live action.
Yeah, with Hugh Laurie.
Oh right, he's one of the like thieves, right?
Yeah.
Also, Dunstan checks in about the like orangutan, right? And then Ed about a monkey in baseball, and Flipper, as well as Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco. So a lot of these movies featured animals that were directed at kids. I mean, that's kind of you don't really see that as much anymore. I think it's really hard to work with animals. So you know they stopped doing it when they could just animate them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Once they started animating them, they didn't need them anymore. Putting animals out of a job, man. The hell.
Oh, another one I watched this week for the first time in the sports variety. You had Tin Cup, you had The Fan, but the one I ended up watching was Jerry Maguire.
I haven't seen that in forever.
I hated it. I could not stand Jerry Maguire. I know it's a classic, but I fucking hated that movie.
I haven't seen it in forever, but I don't think I would go back to watch it just because I remember it not liking it, or I don't know.
I mean, it was like, I think mostly known for the romantic elements of it between the characters, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, I didn't care one way or the other about their story, but Jonathan Lipnicki's in it. You know, he's cute. Their love story has a bunch of classic lines, you know, the you complete me, you had me at hello. Let's see, outside of that, let's get on to some horror films. Just a couple for this year, not a whole bunch of horror movies, but one of the best horror, probably my favorite horror movie of the 90s is Scream.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I rewatched that. I mean, I've seen that movie a million times, but I rewatched it, and I've got
Screaming sucks.
yeah. So, that's one of my favorite horror movies. I think a lot of people say that, but it's just so good. It's so good at taking down the genre and all that. I rewatched it. I also watched Screamers for the first time. That's a movie starring Peter Weller from RoboCop, and it's like it's a Philip K. Dick novel, who did Blade Runner and others that I can't think of off the top of my head. But it's like they're on a different planet, and there are little like the main threat is these machines that like burrow under the ground and like jump out at you and stuff like that, and they are kind of developing on their own, and nobody really knows what's going on with these maybe sentient machines. It was decent. Also, From Dusk Till Dawn came out this year. That's a great movie.
Great.
As well as The Craft. The Craft's pretty cool too. Have you seen that? Where like the high school girls start doing witchcraft.
Oh
really cool.
shit! Yeah, I have seen that movie.
That one's dope.
Forever.
There were a couple Christmas movies this year that were pretty well known. Namely, Jingle All the Way. That's what we mentioned earlier. That movie did come out.
Oh
this
yeah.
year.
Oh, okay.
So that had to. I mean, actually, weird that came out the year that the Tickle Me Elmo thing happened.
Guess it's not that weird.
But it's like they wouldn't have been writing it. They didn't like write it within a month and shoot it and have it come out. You know what I mean? It would have been that they
No.
were already working on it before Tickle Me Elmo blew up. You know?
But I don't think it's a far-fetched thing to know that dolls do well during Christmas time.
Yeah, I mean the Cabbage Patch thing was really the only example that we had though, and that was like 10 years prior.
It's true.
You know? So it's kind of weird that there's the other big well-known run on a toy happened the same year that a movie about that happened.
Yeah.
I liked Jingle All the Way when I was younger.
Yeah, I did. I like that movie too. I remember seeing it on Disney Channel.
Also, The Preacher's Wife came out this year. It's just a remake of The Bishop's Wife. You can skip The Preacher's Wife and watch The Bishop's Wife. It's a million times better. Also, a movie called How the Toys Saved Christmas came out. This was a year that I was surprised when I was looking through the releases to see that there were a lot of notorious box office bombs that came out. Like there were so many that I've been like, oh yeah, that's one that I've heard of for having been a huge bomb. Striptease, Barb Wire, starring Pamela Anderson as like a comic book character, and also The Phantom, another comic book movie that came out and bombed. Theodore Rex is a wild story of a movie that bombed so hard they like decided not to put it out in theaters, even though it starred Whoopi Goldberg when she was extremely popular.
Oh shit.
The Adventures of Pinocchio, is also interesting because Roberto Benigni, the guy who stars as Pinocchio, this is like one of the worst films ever. A lot of people say he also has been credited as making one of the best films ever that he like directed. That's called Life is Beautiful. And the one I watched the first time was The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, never
That's
heard of it.
Yeah, it's a very infamous production. It was one of Marlon Brando's last movies, and it was like where he, wasn't going to learn any lines, so he had them just like on an earpiece or would be told right before he went on what he was going to say. Plus, I think his daughter it was that killed herself, like either right before the production began or during the production. So he had that hanging over his head. And then Val Kilmer was going through a divorce. Like he found out he was getting divorced right when the production was starting. So that was on him.
Oh, shit.
There's just a lot of weird stuff. They also had to like change directors at one point. But it's cool. It's got a lot of cool costumes for it's about Dr. Moreau makes animal human hybrids on his island. And so the costume work is really cool. And I mean, it's a little bit of a messy movie, but I didn't hate it. I actually enjoyed it. I like weird movies, obviously, but I really liked it a lot, actually. But I was surprised people despised it as hardly as it got. Val Kilmer does a hilarious impression of Marlon Brando for like a while. For like 10 minutes, he's like, "All right, let me go ahead and come here, my darling. Let me kiss you." It's very funny. And last thing I want to say is the category of movies that I'll tell you about here is, I mentioned her a moment ago, Whoopi Goldberg movies. Man, I did not realize. I mean, I knew she was a huge star, but I didn't realize how dominating she was at the box office. Let me read you off this list of movies that she was in this year. The Celluloid Closet, Eddie, T-Rex, that's Theodore Rex I mentioned a moment ago. Tales from the Crypt presents Bordello of Blood, Bogus, The Associate, Ghosts of Mississippi, and then also she hosted the 68th Academy Awards this year.
Damn.
Yeah, she was in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies.
Damn.
That she starred
That's just being able to do that is a lot. It's a lot of
just
work.
making it to work all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't sleep very often, does she?
No, I guess not. And it's funny that she's not like she doesn't have like this huge hold on people's memories. It's not like she's like remembered as like, oh yeah, I remember Whoopi Goldberg movies. You know what I mean?
Well, she's very political now, so I think that's what most people associate with her.
Yeah, I think so too. Kind of just she stayed in the public eye for a long time after being done with the movie thing. So
Yeah.
but I just think it's interesting that it's like she had such an impact on things. It's not that different than being like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, there was a time when Arnold Schwarzenegger movies were a thing. Then he became the governor, but it still was a remembered thing, and we still talk about his movies and stuff. I think she's just sort of weirdly. I don't know. I guess it's because she was more divisive than he was as a.
Well, he did become
figure.
governor, but he also like didn't continue to do a talk show host every day about political commentary.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he did fall out of the light base pretty much after the governor.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. He did a few things. He came back in Terminator for like a little bit, but he hasn't like. I can't think of a big movie he's done since whenever he was governor in like early 2000s.
No, but I mean, he did jump into trying to make Schwarzenegger movies again. I feel like he did that one with Sylvester Stallone where they were prisoners.
And then they did that one with all of the old action stars.
Oh yeah. He's not in that one a ton, right? I can't remember. The
I haven't
Expendables.
seen it. Oh yeah, the Expendables. I haven't seen it, but no, he was in it.
Yeah, he did a couple of things here and there, but I remember what was the one, Collateral Damage. I feel like that was when he was the governor.
I feel like you're right. I feel like he did
right
something when he
afterwards.
was the governor, and I think that was kind of controversial that he was like not governating.
It came out in 2002.
I don't know when he became governor. I feel like
Yeah,
it was
I gotta
around
look that up
point.
too. And you look up Arnold Schwarzenegger Gov, the first thing is Governator. Oh, he was elected in 2003.
Okay, so it was right after.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense then. You got a pass from us, Arnie. Okay, well, that's all I got to say about these movies. So many movies.
Yes, a lot of movies.
A lot of stuff went on this year, man. So many things. I think it's a good thing that we do what we do here. It's funny, actually, now that I'm like thinking of this. Our whole premise now is that we repeat history so you don't have to. Then we erase everything except for one thing that happens. So, fuck, we're never going to accomplish our goal. This is on us.
Well, what are we gonna do? We can't. We've dug our hole too deep. Now we
At
just have
this
to
point, it
rewrite
is what it
history
is.
forever until.
Yeah, I guess so. The one thing that people won't repeat is the things that we mentioned here because it's the only thing that they'll be able to remember.
Yeah, that's
And,
true.
I kind of the thing that we'll remember here. I'm going to abandon that because I was like, well, if they don't repeat it, then how are they going to make sequels to my movie that I'm picking? Fuck it. I'm going to save Scream. It's one of my favorite horror movies, like I mentioned, and it's a little bit on the nose for me, I think, for this year. But I just was like, I like it too much. I can't not choose that, so I'm choosing Scream.
All right. Damn. I did not put a lot of thought into mine. You know what? I am going to choose the song I wanted.
The song "Hell" by the Squirrel Nut Zippers.
I'm gonna do "Turn Off the Radio" album by Real Big Fish.
Oh, okay, that's a cool one. That's a
'Cause
fun out there pick.
Because there's a lot of great songs on that album.
And it's got beer as well.
Yeah.
What did I end up putting on the
Trendy
Oh.
Sellout is what you put. Trendy's on there. Beer's on there. Everything Sucks. There's a lot of good songs from the Real Big Fish.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I like that. We save so few albums, and the number. Was just thinking one of the other ones you saved was Foghat. So people got Foghat, and Real Big
shit.
Fish to choose from.
Damn,
I
you
don't
guys
know
are
how many other
gonna
ones.
either love or hate the music that I'm picking. So
That's all right. They got some weird movies that I chose. So Scream at least is sort of on the.
yeah, there's a lot of
good
prequels
one.
or whatever else that happened for
Yeah.
those movies.
I almost saved "Whoever You Are" by Gay Guitar. That's a very funny song that I love, but it's really weird if you listen to that one, folks. That was almost what you were left with. Okie dokie. 1996. It was a fun year. Lots of fun stuff. I'm glad we had our helmets on and our heads on a swivel.
We needed it, especially after that alien explosion.
Yeah, there was so much going on, man. It was so frightening. But a lot of fun stuff happened as well. I'm really glad that we did brave the elements because we ended up with some good, fun items to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I know I'm going to look over our chosen things, the Real Big Fish album and the movie Scream, and remember the year 1996, and I'm going to think to myself that we
We
wish
wish
we
we were
then.
then.